Part 2. I am Sue Mo. I was just a teenager who was ignored by my family, but I won the college entrance examination. I decided not to endure the indifference of my family anymore and left home to live alone and started my own business. While my family was waiting for news of my downfall, my project received 150 million yuan in investment in the early stage. However, at this moment, I found myself poisoned. Now my sister suspected that it was my second sister, whom I admired, who poisoned me. If it was her, what should I do? Should I really ignore family ties and call the police? Hi everyone, thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and share. If you like this story, please let me know in the comment section. I will update the next part. Chapter 34. The Forgotten Genius and the Rise of Shared Bikes. The night was cool, and the streets were silent at 4 in the morning, with only a few small trucks full of shared bikes breaking the silence. Sue Mo, Tang Lei, and others stood on the street expectantly, placing rows of bright yellow bikes on the ground, neatly placed on the roadside. When Sue Mo first launched shared bikes, he felt a mixture of nervousness and excitement. This was an opportunity to get rich overnight. Sue Mo knew that if he succeeded, he could become rich overnight in just a few days, create a multi-billion-dollar business empire within a year. Will there be any chances of them being stolen if we put so many of them here? Tang Lei asked worriedly, his brows furrowed, and he felt vaguely uneasy. Hearing this, Sue Mo smiled, with a hint of determination in his eyes. No, the public security in Xiaohai City is very good. And, only those who dare to take risks can make big money. There was an unquestionable confidence in his tone, as if he had already seen the future success. Gu Huanqi stood aside and whispered, I hope so. She pursed her lips. Although she still had some doubts in her heart, she chose to believe Sue Mo. At dawn, Sue Mo and his team had been busy for most of the night. All 1,000 bicycles in 50 locations had been placed, and the next step was to distribute flyers to promote their green travel concept. Sue Mo had a clear calculation in his mind. As long as 1,000 people paid the deposit, they would be successful. If 2,000 or 3,000 people rode their bicycles, they would make a fortune. But the real challenge has just begun. Let's go to the next location, Sue Mo urged with a bit of fatigue but still high morale. Gu Huanqi nodded, with a hint of hesitation in his eyes. Can it really succeed? Don't worry, you will succeed. Sue Mo firmly believed that he was taking a shortcut that others only dreamed of. He wanted to replicate the success of his previous life, or even surpass it. However, while they were busy, a dinner party was quietly going on in the other side of the city. In the luxurious villa, the Sue family sat around a long table filled with lobsters and hairy crabs, and each plate symbolized luxury and abundance. Second sister, come and eat. These are the seafood feasts to celebrate little Juanja. Su Manny shouted with a smile, picking up a huge lobster without hesitation. Su Shuehue walked downstairs slowly, looking a little haggard. She had hardly slept the whole night, and there were too many questions lingering in her mind. She sat down and looked at the table full of food with a complicated look in her eyes, as if these sumptuous dishes had become unusually dazzling. Sumo, he hasn't come back yet. Can we eat these things? She said softly. As soon as the words fell, the air froze instantly, and the whole living room fell into a strange silence. Everyone's face was a little embarrassed, especially Su Juanja. His eyes flickered, and he didn't dare to look directly at Su Shuehue. It's his business if he doesn't come back. Why mention him? Xie Bingyin's face darkened, with a hint of annoyance in her tone. Su Shuehue ignored her anger and continued. Su Mo is the real #1 scholar, isn't he? The words were like a sharp blade, cutting through the surface calmness of the entire room. Su Juanja's hands trembled slightly, and Su Manny quickly interrupted, trying to ease the atmosphere. Sister, don't mention it. Let's eat. Don't affect your mood. However, Su Shuehue felt sad. Chapter 35. The Neglected Brother and the Silent Pain. Su Shuehue sat quietly at the dining table, watching Su Manny and Su Punti eat lobsters with big mouthfuls, their faces full of satisfied smiles. But she found the food hard to swallow. The memories of the past flooded into her mind like a tide, making it difficult for her to breathe. She still remembers that when Su Mo was a child, he was often punished by his mother Xie Bingyan for minor mistakes. He had to stand by and watch the whole family eat happily while he could only stand by and silently endure hunger. I'm not hungry, second sister, as long as mom is not angry. Su Mo had a smile on his face at the time, but Su Shuehue only realized now how much helplessness and sadness there was behind that smile. At that time, She was just like everyone else, watching him being punished indifferently, and even laughed at him casually, not understanding the despair in Sumo's heart. Now thinking of this, she only felt extremely guilty, and the food in her mouth seemed to become bitter and hard to swallow. Sister, what's wrong with you? Sue Manny's voice brought her back to reality, but she could no longer bear this depressing atmosphere, so she turned and walked out of the restaurant. She found the housekeeper, Uncle Lee, and said with red eyes, Uncle Lee, show me the surveillance video at home. I want to see what happened to Sue and Mo in the past. Uncle Lee was obviously a little hesitant, but finally sighed, second miss. The eldest lady also came to get some videos a few days ago. They were about Master Mo secretly eating in the middle of the night. At that time, he was often very hungry and could only sneak into the refrigerator in the middle of the night to find leftovers. Why is he so careful even when eating? Su Shuehui asked in shock, her voice trembling slightly. Uncle Lee silently handed her a hard drive and said, Once, Miss San's cake was eaten by Master Mo, and she was furious. Master Mo was so scared that he hid in his room and didn't dare to come out. After Su Shuehui finished listening, her fingers trembled slightly, and the hard drive seemed extremely heavy in her hands. She returned to her room, inserted the hard drive into the computer, and looked at the screen. All the details that she had ignored in the past appeared before her one by one. In the video, Su Mo was thrown to the ground by the big wolf dog raised by Su Pundi, and he was so scared that he quickly patted the dog. Then, Su Pundi was furious and forced him to apologize to the dog. Su Mo, with a face full of fear, bowed his head to the dog and admitted his mistake in front of everyone's cold eyes. At that time, Su Shuehe, Su Manny, and even Xie Bingyin were all sitting nearby, looking at him indifferently as if they were watching a joke. Why didn't I do anything at that time? Su Shuehui murmured to herself. The regret and self-blame in her heart made her almost unable to breathe. How could she be so indifferent at that time? Back to reality, her phone vibrated. It was a message from her elder sister Su Wanting. You are my sister. These 4 short words hit Su Shuehui's heart like a heavy punch. Yes, as a sister, she had the responsibility to protect Su Mo, but she became a cold-eyed bystander. Su Shuehui walked back to the living room and watched Su Manny and Su Pundi still feasting, as if nothing had happened. She could no longer tolerate this cold and heartless family, so she turned and left, tears blurring her vision. She finally understood that this home was not a home at all for Su Mo, but the most painful cage in his life. Chapter 36 Su Mo's bike-sharing project was a success for the first time. On the other hand, Sumo took time out from work to go to the hospital and got his medical examination report. He thanked the doctor in a low voice, opened the report, and frowned slightly. A month ago, the examination found that he had many health problems, including hypoglycemia, anemia, and abnormal heart hematopoietic function. The doctor suggested that he take more care of himself. During this period, he followed the advice and his physical condition improved, but he still could not fully recover from hypoglycemia and anemia. He put away the report and returned to the company with a relaxed smile. Tang Lei, Gu Huanqi, and Li Banzwang were still busy distributing flyers. When Su Mo walked into the company, the 3 of them surrounded him with excitement. Su Mo, are you okay? Gu Huanqi asked with concern. It's not a big problem. It just requires good recuperation. Su Mo smiled, his tone relaxed. I just saw someone riding away our bicycle. Li Banzwang said excitedly, and Annie scanned the code and rode away. That's great. I saw it too, Tang Lei continued. Office workers at the subway entrance have started using our bikes. Sumo nodded, his smile deepening. I also saw someone riding away at the hospital entrance. It seems to be working well. But Gu Huanqi was a little worried. Will the car be stolen? We need to find a way to recover it. Sumo smiled and nodded. There will be a return operation in the next few days. We can find the bicycle through positioning. Don't worry too much. He looked at the time and suggested, eat something first and see how high the data can go during the peak period. Several people had a big meal with great anticipation, and then rushed back to the office together to begin testing their results. Sumo sat in front of the computer and opened the background data. Tang Lei and Gu Huanqi came over nervously. After the page was refreshed, a number popped up, 103. Sumo held his breath. The data continued to jump, and the number of people increased rapidly. 135, 169, 205, 265. The number stopped steadily at 265. 265 users. Gu Huanqi exclaimed. and the three of them smiled at each other, feeling very excited. It was incredible that they could reach so many users on the first day. The rush hour after get off work hasn't arrived yet. The number of people will definitely increase when the rush hour comes. Sumo analyzed, we need to continue handing out flyers tomorrow. We have to speed up. I think 1,000 bicycles are not enough. We need to expand the scale. Gu Huanqi suggested. It's already in the plan. The third batch of 10,000 bicycles I ordered will arrive soon. Sumo said confidently. As time went by, the data on the screen was constantly refreshed, and the number of users finally exceeded 400. Although a small number of people returned their deposits, the overall trend was gratifying. Success! We really succeeded, Tang Lei shouted excitedly, and everyone cheered with smiles on their faces. Sumo nodded, hope flashing in his eyes. This is the first step of a long journey. We still have a lot of work to do. Now let's celebrate. Everyone happily followed Sumo to the market and bought a bunch of lobsters and crabs to celebrate this initial victory. Although the future is full of challenges, they are ready to welcome a more glorious tomorrow. At the same time, on the other side, Su Wanting was quietly looking through Sumo's physical examination report in the office, frowning slightly. Sumo's health had always been problematic, but they didn't know. He had these problems when he was in the orphanage, but his family never really cared about this. Chapter 37. Why does he have excessive levels of heavy metals? Su Wanting lowered her head, tears dripping onto the medical report in her hand, and she felt deeply guilty. Thinking of that scene at home, once, when it was time to eat, her mother asked Sumo to stand aside and watch the family eat meat and drink wine, while he couldn't even eat. When has this family ever lacked money? But over the years, no one has really cared about Sumo's life. She sighed softly and sent a message to Su Shuehui. Go find Shuang. I have something to talk to her about. Shuang? Su Shuehui replied hesitantly. Yes, Shuang is a doctor. I want her to look at Sumo's medical report. I don't want to care about family matters anymore. Su Wanting said in a cold tone. She knew that the pain Sumo had endured over the years was far more than they imagined. The fifth child, Su Shuang, became famous at a young age and has long been the attending physician of a first-class hospital. However, like the rest of the family, she has never really paid attention to Sumo's health. Sumo used to admire her the most and thought she was as unattainable as a goddess in the clouds. But the reality is that Shuang is so busy that she can't even take care of the family. The phone rang soon, and Su Shuang hurriedly said, Sister, are you looking for me? I have Sumo's physical examination report here. His condition is very bad. Su Wanting said bluntly. Su Shuang on the other end of the phone was silent for a moment. Sister, Sumo's health is indeed not very good. But I didn't expect that he could get the top score in the college entrance examination. This really surprised me. Yes, he got the top score in the exam. But do you think Dad will buy him a Porsche like he did to Juanja? Su Wanting sneered. There was a brief silence on the other end of the phone. Su Shuang hesitated. I'm afraid this won't happen? Of course not, Su Wanting said word by word. No matter how good Sumo is, they can always find reasons to ignore him, even if he is the top scorer. Su Shuang asked in confusion. Sister, you have never cared so much about Sumo before. Why are you suddenly? Before? I didn't realize how cruel I was before. Su Wanting's voice gradually became choked. Do you know? In our family, his monthly living expenses are only 500 yuan. There is money at home, but he can't even have food to eat. Sometimes he is even punished to stand or be put in solitary confinement. He can only sneak downstairs in the middle of the night to eat leftovers. Hearing this, Su Shuang fell into a long silence. She had never thought that Sumo's life would be so difficult. Her busy work and her family's indifference pushed Sumo further and further away. He once stole Manny's cake and was scolded. Over the years, our Su family has never given him anything, not even a little bit of care. Su Wanting's voice was filled with despair. He paid back 300,000 yuan to his parents yesterday, 100,000 yuan of which was for living expenses, and the remaining 200,000 yuan was the price for him to leave this family. Su Shuang's heart was shocked, and she couldn't help feeling chilled. Sister, this is too extreme, right? Su Shuang hesitated. Can you come over here? We need to talk. Su Wanting insisted. After hanging up the phone, Su Wanting waited silently. Not long after, Su Shuang, wearing a white coat, hurried to the office. Sister, my second sister just scolded me. What happened? Shuang pushed the door open, looking confused. Take a look at this. Su Wanting handed over the medical examination report. Sumo's health is very poor. He is severely malnourished and has fainted in the vegetable market before. Su Shuang frowned as she flipped through the report, her expression gradually becoming serious. Severe anemia, partial loss of hematopoietic function. Sister, these are not small problems. As she checked, her eyes suddenly fixed on a certain indicator. Wait, the blood test shows that he has excessive heavy metals in his body, and the palladium content is too high. Palladium? Su Wanting was shocked. How could there be palladium? This is a rare heavy metal. Su Shuang shook her head. It's common in the laboratory. Su Mo might have eaten something he shouldn't have eaten outside. However, the problem is not too serious. As long as he takes good care of himself, it will be excreted slowly from his body. Hearing this, Su Wanting felt even heavier in her heart. He once couldn't even eat. Could it be that he was so hungry that he ate randomly? Chapter 38, does he know that he is poisoned by palladium? Maybe that's the case. Su Shuang responded casually. Do you think it's possible? Su Wanting stared at her with sharp eyes. Su Shuang was stunned and didn't say anything. Su Wanting was silent for a while, slowly picked up the test report, looked through it carefully, and suddenly said, There is another test report from 2 months ago. Where Su Shuang asked casually. It's in my room, come with me to get it. Su Wanting said immediately. But sister, I have to rush back to the hospital. Su Shuang obviously didn't want to waste time on this matter. Come back with me first. Su Wanting insisted coldly, with a hint of coercion in her tone. Su Shuang was a little impatient, but still said, Okay, then I'll go back to the hospital first, and you can come find me later. Not long after, Su Wanting rushed to the hospital with another test report. Su Shuang took a look and frowned. It's indeed a little heavier, but it's not a big problem, just take care of it. The test 2 months ago should have shown that he had palladium poisoning at that time. Palladium poisoning? Su Wanting stared at her, a strong question in her mind. How do you think he was poisoned? This palladium is not very toxic. He must have eaten something unclean. Su Shuang shrugged. But where did he get this kind of thing? Su Wanting pressed, her face gradually becoming solemn. Su Shuang's expression gradually became uneasy. I remember last year, I brought some palladium powder home for research and put it in a small bottle. Later, my third sister found it interesting, so I gave it to her. You gave it to her? Su Wanting's pupil shrank, and her voice was almost shouted. Well, I guess third sister accidentally lost it, and Suimo found it, so he ate it by mistake. Su Shuang said indifferently. But it's okay. Sumo's poisoning is very mild. He just needs to recuperate. Su Wanting stared at the medical records in her hand, feeling increasingly heavy in her heart. Sumo's recent changes caught everyone off guard. He went from being a cowardly teenager to a resolute stranger, even publicly cursing his family. Everyone was confused by his abnormal behavior. Shuang, what if this was not an accidental ingestion? Su Wanting suddenly spoke coldly. Su Shuang was stunned. What do you mean? What if someone deliberately poisoned him? Su Wanting's voice was as cold as an ice blade, and she almost couldn't believe what she was saying. Sister, are you crazy? Su Shuang's eyes widened. Who would poison him? This is palladium poisoning. Taking too much can be fatal. Su Wanting remained silent, but the chill in her heart grew stronger. Someone in the Su family wants Sumo's life. This thought was like a huge rock pressing on her heart, almost making her breathless. Seeing her silence, Su Shuang couldn't help but said, Sister, don't let your imagination run wild. There isn't much palladium powder. He must have ingested it by mistake. Are you sure? Su Wanting stared at her with a cold look in her eyes. You took this palladium home. If someone really wanted to poison me, the biggest suspect would be my third sister, and you too. Su Shuang was frightened by her words and waved her hands hastily. I didn't. Although I don't like him, I would never do such a thing. You should suspect the third sister. She hates Su Mo more than anyone else. Su Wanting knew that Su Manny did have a grudge against Su Mo. If someone really wanted to poison her, Su Manny would be the most likely suspect. Shuehui, come quickly. We need to meet Su Mo to confirm some things. After hanging up the phone, Su Wanting had already made up her mind. No matter how terrible the truth was, she had to find it out. Chapter 39. Did you get the answer you wanted? It is still unknown whether Su Mo is aware that he is suffering from palladium poisoning. Generally, only professional doctors can analyze this case report. When other people look at it, most will only see anemia and malnutrition. Su Wanting needs to remind him. And if someone gave it to him to eat, Su Wanting didn't dare to think about it. This kind of thing was too dark. Su Shuehui came over quickly. Su Shuehui was still crying just now. In fact, she didn't dare to see Su Mo because she felt that she had committed a serious sin. Su Wanting could more or less understand her feelings. However, Su Wanting does not plan to take Su Shuang with her for the time being, as Su Shuang is also one of the suspects. Let's go. Let's go ask Su Mo if he knows. Su Wanting said. Okay. Su Shuehui nodded. She didn't dare to think about it. The two quickly drove to where Su Mo lived. Su Mo had been learning to drive during this period and was quite busy. Su Wanting had already asked the police to find his residence. The two drove to where Su Mo lived. Su Mo had been very busy recently and was about to go out, but he didn't expect to see them as soon as he opened the door. I didn't check the almanac before going out today. He muttered, turned around to lock the door, and ignored it. Su Mo. Su Wanting shouted anxiously. Su Mo, are you okay? Su Shuehui's eyes were red, and her voice was slightly choked. Su Mo glanced at them coldly, not hiding his disgust. What are you doing here? It's unlucky. He locked the door and prepared to leave, but Su Wanting quickly stopped him. Su Mo, you are not in good health, do you know? Anemia and hypoglycemia are very serious. You need to recuperate. Su Mo's face suddenly darkened, and a hint of coldness flashed in his eyes. Are you investigating me? No. We are just worried about you. Su Wanting took out the medical record and said in a trembling voice, the palladium level in your blood is too high. Did you know that? You are poisoned. Su Mo was stunned for a moment. He didn't expect them to find this. He looked at the medical records quietly, with a hint of deep thought in his eyes. Did you eat something you shouldn't have? Su Shuei asked hurriedly. This kind of poisoning is very serious. It may be worse than death. Do you know that? Su Mo did not respond. Instead, he sneered and turned to leave. Su Mo. Seeing this, Su Wanting hurriedly grabbed his hand. Let go. Su Mo roared and shook off her hand, his eyes full of disdain and indifference. Su Mo, we just want to find out why you were poisoned. Su Wanting choked up. Sister is really worried about you. Worried about me? Ha, what a joke. Su Mo sneered and stared at them with contempt. You were worried about me? Stop pretending. Everyone knows your true colors. Su Wanting was hurt by his words. Tears welled up in her eyes. Su Mo, we really care about you. Tell us, how did you get poisoned? I'm poisoned. Su Mo smiled coldly, staring at them, and said word by word, didn't you poison me? Su Wanting and Su Shuehui were both stunned and looked at each other. How could my sister poison you? Su Wanting shook her head in shock and denied it. How is it impossible? Su Mo recalled with a sneer. For months ago, you brought back a box of milk from the company and kept it in the refrigerator. It was expired and no one drank it. When my second sister saw it, she smiled and said to me, Su Mo, this milk is just expired. You can drink it. He stared at Su Shuehui with a dagger-like gaze. I still remember clearly how you looked like a good person. At that time, I really thought you cared about me, but what happened? This is how you treated me. You used expired things to trick me. When Su Wanting and Su Shuehui heard this, their faces suddenly turned pale and their bodies trembled slightly. Are you satisfied? Now you know how I was poisoned, right? Su Mo's tone was cold, with anger burning in his eyes. You wanted to poison me, right? Did you get the answer you wanted? He turned and strode away, leaving the two sisters trembling in their place. Guilt and fear intertwined in their hearts, unable to calm down. Chapter 40, his idolized second sister wanted to poison him to death. Su Wanting and Su Shuehui's faces turned pale instantly. Their eyes widened in disbelief. Su Mo didn't even look at them again and turned away. He no longer needed these hypocritical feelings in his life. Right now, the second-year driving test was approaching, and he had to hurry up to practice driving. A driving license was a small goal for him, but he cared more about the future of the sharing project. As one of the founders of the project, Su Mo saw great potential. Once successful, it would create a stir in the market, form economies of scale, and bring wealth. He planned 3 rounds of financing and eventually sell the company. He was full of confidence in the future, and this project was just the starting point of his career. Su Mo no longer cared about the past grudges. Su Wanting and Su Shuehui's crying seemed meaningless to him. Their guilt might be real, but Su Mo knew that if he looked back, he would only become a victim again. Su Mo would never forget the pain of the past, especially the role played by Sieb Bingyin and several sisters in fueling the flames behind the scenes. Su Juanzhe was just the executor, and they were the instigators. He had been poisoned to death, And although there was no evidence, Su Imo knew in his heart that Sieb Bingyin and the third child, Su Manny, were most responsible. And now, they were pretending to be innocent, which made him feel even more ridiculous. Su Imo quickly moved on with his own life, preparing to join Tang Lei and others to continue promoting the shared bike business. The number of users has exceeded 500, and the prospects are bright. He is negotiating a new batch of orders with Phoenix Bike. 50,000 and 100,000 bikes are about to arrive, and the project is gradually rolling out. Su Mo, it's time to make money, Tang Lei said excitedly. Yes, I made money. Su Mo smiled slightly and put all the unhappiness behind him. At the same time, Su Wanting and Su Xuehui sat in the car, lost and confused. They couldn't believe what had just happened, especially Su Mo's words, which were like a knife, stabbing into their hearts. Su Wanting recalled that she had indeed forgotten to put the box of milk she brought home a few months ago in the refrigerator. Su Xuehui, on the other hand, was pale and trembling. That milk, it was indeed me who let him drink it. Su Xuehui curled up in her seat, her voice trembling. Su Wanting's heart sank. Although the milk was expired, it was not poisonous. She could feel the torment and pain in Su Xuehui's heart, but the bigger problem was still before her. She could no longer sit idly by. She took a deep breath and drove back home. Xie Bingyin and Su Juanjia were enjoying life leisurely in the living room. The table was filled with snacks and the latest mobile phones. Obviously, this was a gift Xie Bingyin prepared for Su Juanjia for his success in the college entrance examination. Su Wanting felt completely chilled. Your own son is going to be poisoned to death. Did you know that? She mocked silently in her heart. Su Wanting suddenly understood Su Mo's despair. He had never really belonged to this family, and no one cared about him even when he faced such a serious problem. Who poisoned him? Su Wanting already had her suspicions. Manny was the most suspicious, as she hated Su Mo the most and had done countless bad things. And the fourth child, Su Pundi, had also forced Su Mo to apologize to the dog. So both of them were highly suspected. Su Wanting took Su Xuehui back to the room with a lot of thoughts in her mind. Su Xuehui's eyes were full of tears, and she cried. Su Mo said it was us. He thought we wanted to poison him. He was just speaking in anger. Su Wanting suppressed her inner fluctuations and analyzed calmly. The box of milk is indeed expired, but it can't be poisonous. The real problem is with Manny. She hates Su Mo too much. When Su Xuehui heard these words, she couldn't help but feel sad and full of self-blame. Manny once hid Su Mo's phone and made him walk alone at night in the scenic area for more than 10 kilometers. Su Wanting continued, and the fourth child, she is also hostile to Su Mo. I guess she has also been involved in many shady things. Su Wanting's heart sank, thinking of Xie Bingyan and Su Deming's attitudes. She felt even more how cold-blooded and ruthless this family was. Why does Mom dote on Juanjia so much? Su Mo is obviously her biological son. Su Wanting said in a low voice, with a hint of confusion and sadness in her eyes. Su Xuehui burst into tears. Su Mo said it was us. He said it was us who wanted to poison him. Su Wanting stopped talking. She just felt her whole body was cold, as if she was swallowed by this silent storm. Chapter 41, Open, Shared, Green Safe. Su Wanting and Su Xuehui stood beside the car, their faces pale. Su Mo's indifference and hostility undoubtedly explained his suspicion in his heart. He thought they wanted to poison him. Regardless of the facts, if Su Mo really drank the box of milk she brought home and was poisoned, she was indeed to blame. This brother who once took her as an example was now completely desperate. He used to admire me so much and thought I was the best elder sister. Su Wanting felt bitter. But now, in Su Mo's mind, this elder sister has become someone who drugged and harmed him. No wonder he hates her so much. Compared to their heavy emotions, Su Mo's life is gradually getting back on track. He is learning easily for the driver's license test and is about to pass the second subject. His shared bicycle project is also progressing steadily. 5,000 bicycles have been in place, and the second round of promotion is about to begin. In the future, he plans to raise funds vigorously to build the company into a nationally renowned brand and eventually sell it for a generous return. The busy days left Su Mo no time to care about those family grievances. Tang Lei and his team searched the city for scattered bicycles. Some of them were even secretly taken home, but these problems were not big. Su Mo's eyes had already locked on a bigger goal. Just as he was collecting his bicycle near the hospital, he suddenly heard a shout from behind. Robbery! Robbery! Suemo looked up and saw a man holding a woman's bag, running towards him quickly, while a woman was desperately chasing him from behind. Seeing the man rushing towards him, Suemo did not hesitate to gently push the bicycle in his hand. The man could not dodge and fell heavily to the ground. He cursed, but when he saw Suemo picking up the bicycle and preparing to hit him again, he was so scared that he dropped his bag and ran away. The woman rushed over and thanked him breathlessly. "Thank you. Thank you for saving me." "It's okay." Sumo picked up the bicycle and prepared to continue working. "Are you the one who went to the East City orphanage to donate things this morning?" The woman suddenly recognized him and asked in surprise. Suemo was stunned for a moment before he noticed that she was the doctor who provided free medical services at the orphanage today. "Are you the free medical doctor? Thank you for providing public medical examinations for those children." The female doctor laughed. "So it's really you. I was wondering why you looked so familiar. I heard you came from an orphanage? Oh, you're the top scorer in the college entrance examination, right?" "I did grow up in an orphanage." Suemo responded calmly, not intending to explain further. "The children in the East City orphanage are all saying that you are the top scholar. And the director also told us. I really didn't expect to meet you here." Her face was full of joy. "It's just an achievement, nothing to promote," Suemo said with a smile. The two chatted for a few words, and the female doctor introduced herself as Jiang Pingting, and then left. The next day, Suemo and his team set out again to start a larger-scale bicycle promotion. 5,000 bicycles were deployed in every corner of the city, covering hospitals, schools, and vegetable markets. As the promotion increased, the number of users also increased rapidly. By the end of the first day, Sumo's number of users exceeded 800, and everyone was excited about it. Green travel, low carbon, and environmentally friendly. This concept has gradually taken root in the city with the introduction of shared bicycles, and Sumo's plan is being realized step by step. However, just as he was busy moving the bicycle, he suddenly heard a familiar voice from behind. "Suemo, what are you doing?" He looked back, frowned, and immediately turned around to continue moving the bicycle. The person standing not far away was his fifth sister, Su Shuang. "T'es cool? Bald look." Suemo muttered in a low voice, ignored her, put the bicycle on the car, and left. Seeing this, Su Shuang stamped her feet in anger and shouted, "Suemo, stop right there." However, Suemo ignored him and asked the driver to drive away without looking back. Chapter 42. What a bad luck. This was the fourth time Su Shuang had spotted Suemo near the hospital. After several attempts at forbearance, she could no longer suppress her anger. Why was he still here? Was he asking her for money again? After being away from home for more than 2 months, he must be unable to hold on any longer, Su Shuang sneered in her heart. Watching Suemo get on the pickup truck and leave, she couldn't help but sneer. "Didn't you say you wanted to break up? Now you're back in disgrace?" Although Su Shuang had always been unhappy with Suemo, she felt a sense of gloating when she saw him appear again. Everyone in her family was waiting to see Sumo's joke, and some people in the group even speculated how long he could last. She secretly made up her mind. "If I catch him, I will teach him a lesson." However, Suemo ignored all this. He knew that the hospital was nearby, and there was a lot of traffic, so it was a good place to put shared bikes. As for Su Shuang's thoughts, it had nothing to do with him. In the next few days, Suemo was busy nearby, moving and placing the bicycles himself. Although it was tiring, it was very helpful to his health. Occasionally, he would run into Jiang Pingting, the female doctor he had met in the orphanage. Every time they met, Jiang Pingting would curiously ask him about shared bicycles. Once, she came over with a bottle of Coke and handed it to Suemo. "You are quite miserable as the top scholar. Aren't you tired of carrying things up and down?" Suemo smiled and waved his hand to decline her kindness. "It's not tiring. Making money is just exercising." Jiang Pingting looked at him sweating profusely and felt a trace of pity in her heart. "You have no family?" Suemo replied calmly. "No, they are all dead." "So, do you make a living from this?" Jiang Pingting frowned, feeling a little reluctant. "Yeah, if you don't make money, you won't have food to eat." Suemo nodded. Jiang Pingting was a little surprised. "I heard that when you passed the exam and became the top scorer, others gave you a car, a house, and a scholarship? A man who has received favors from others will be grateful for what he has received." Sumo's answer was calm and direct. After several meetings, Jiang Pingting was more and more impressed by this top scorer in the college entrance examination. In contrast to her curiosity, Su Mo was indifferent to her. In contrast, Su Shuang could no longer tolerate Su Mo's presence. Once, she saw Su Mo moving a bicycle at the hospital entrance, and she immediately flew into a rage and rushed over to stop him. Su Mo, what do you want to do by coming to my hospital again and again? Do you want money? No way. Su Shuang roared. Su Mo glanced at her coldly and moved the bicycle calmly. Who are you? Asking you for money? You think too highly of yourself. Su Shuang gritted her teeth in anger. Didn't you want to sever ties with us? Didn't you curse us to die early? Now you come looking for me again. Su Mo was too lazy to argue and said directly to Tang Lei beside him. Let's go. This crazy woman is having a fit. Su Mo, how dare you scold me? Su Shuang became angry and tried to stop him. Su Mo ignored her completely, took Tang Lei into the car, and drove to the next place where bicycles were parked. After returning to the hospital, Jiang Pingding asked curiously, Shuang, do you know that high school student? Su Shuang's face was gloomy, and she answered coldly, I don't know him. Jiang Pingding smiled and said, I heard that he was a top scholar and started his own business. That's amazing. Today's high school students are really amazing. Much more amazing than we were before. What were we doing when we graduated from high school? We were playing and traveling. But they have already started their own businesses and made money, Jiang Pingting said with admiration. They even said they wanted to promote the concept of sharing. It's really amazing. Chapter 43, this kind of pattern and courage is really too high. Su Shuang frowned, looking grim. Sharing? Isn't that just throwing money away? Yes, Jiang Pingting explained with a smile. Isn't this a shared bicycle? It's placed on the street, and anyone can ride it. All you have to do is pay a deposit and scan a code to use it. It also claims to be low carbon, environmentally friendly, and reduce congestion. Today's young people have really advanced ideas. Su Shuang was silent. The image of Su Mo placing rows of yellow bicycles on the street appeared in her mind. Her brows furrowed even more tightly. Painting, you were talking about the top student in high school, right? Aunt Song beside her interrupted. He has been busy with these things recently. Yes, that's him. Jiang Pingding nodded. It is said that he grew up in an orphanage, won the imperial examination, and didn't want a house or money, but started this shared bicycle project instead. You are so courageous, Aunt Song laughed. You know what? I saw someone secretly riding his bicycle home, and the lock was even pried open. This kid is really amazing, Jiang Pingting said with admiration. He's so young, but he has such a great attitude. Su Shuang snorted coldly. How long can he last after several cars were stolen? Isn't this just losing money? Just wait and see. Sooner or later, he will lose everything. Jiang Pingting smiled and said, You know what? They have already anticipated this. Losing a dozen bikes won't have much of an impact. The key is that the concept is new. Now there are bikes in many neighborhoods. Everyone is downloading his app. Su Shuang looked at him with disdain. Ideas ahead of the times? I think he's a spendthrift. Where did he get his money from? At the same time, Su Mo was busy launching the second and third batches of bikes. In just a few days, his shared bikes have been deployed throughout Xuzhou District, and the number of users increased rapidly, with thousands of people registering every day. Standing in front of the data, he did not feel relieved by the surge in users. We lost more than 30 vehicles, which is still within our expectations. Gu Huanqi analyzed the data with a smile on his face. The loss rate is controlled within 1%, and the deposit refund rate is less than 5%. The project is running very smoothly. Tang Lei frowned and said, So many people are using it so quickly. How many bicycles will be put into use in the next batch? Su Mo smiled calmly. 30,000, then 50,000, and then 200,000. 200,000? Tang Lei exclaimed, almost unable to believe Su Mo's plan. Are you crazy? Such a large scale? Su Mo's eyes were firm. The wind is here. If we stand firm, we can fly. We not only need to set up the car, but also advertise and recruit management personnel. The funds and manpower must be fully equipped, and there must be no slack. You're still losing money, and you still dare to increase your investment? Jiang Pingding asked with a hint of sarcasm when she accidentally met the busy Su Mo. Su Mo remained calm. The more we lose, the more we will earn in the future. What we need now is to quickly expand the market. Once the bicycles are fully laid out, angel investors will naturally come to us. I really don't understand what you are thinking. How can you be so confident even when losing money? Jiang Pingding shook her head. Su Mo just smiled and said, "Some roads. Once you set foot on them, you have no choice but to keep going." A few days later, Jiang Pingting met Su Shuang in the hospital and said excitedly, "Shuang, let me tell you, Su Mo is amazing. He now has tens of thousands of shared bicycles, and the number of users is increasing every day. I have never seen such a vision and courage." Jiang Pingting's face was full of amazement. Su Shuang was stunned and looked out the window with complicated eyes. Chapter 44: The Genius Orphans Counterattack. Su Shuang listened to Jiang Pingting and Aunt Song's praise for Su Mo, and her heart was full of mixed emotions. She had never thought that Su Mo, who had always been ignored by the family, could attract so much attention, and even Dean Tang of the hospital favored him. Dean Tang, one of the most powerful and knowledgeable people in Shanghai City, actually wanted to adopt Su Mo as his adopted son. This news shocked her greatly. Our Dean Tang is really moved. Aunt Song continued, "The child is very talented and is the top scorer in the college entrance examination in Shanghai City. Even Dean Li has taken a fancy to him. If he hadn't refused, he would have become a member of the Tang family long ago." Su Shuang's heart trembled. She had always thought that Su Mo had no status in the family, even inferior to an ordinary relative. But now, big figures like Dean Tang and Dean Li actually treated him differently. She felt a trace of jealousy that could not be concealed. Why, do they all like him? Su Shuang couldn't help but ask, with confusion in her tone. "This kid is very talented and hardworking." Aunt Song smiled. "Besides, his bike-sharing project is really a great innovation. Let's hear what Pinning says. If this concept is popularized, it may change the way the entire city travels." Dean Tang is impressed by not only his knowledge, but also his foresight and dedication. Su Shuang frowned slightly. She had always had a bad impression of Su Mo, always thinking that he was a worthless petty thief. However, now, her worldview was completely overturned. This boy, whom she had never looked at, was actually highly regarded by the outside world, and even his ability to change the world was mentioned. What a pity that he is an orphan. Aunt Song sighed helplessly. "Yeah, it's such a pity to lose such a talent." Jiang Pingting also agreed. Su Shuang listened to their conversation, and her heart became more and more complicated. She had never considered Su Mo as a relative, and even thought he was a burden to the family. However, now people outside valued him so much, and Dean Tang was even willing to adopt him as his son. At the same time, Su Mo was immersed in his own business plan. He knew that at this stage of the project development, his personal efforts alone could no longer sustain it, and he had to find investment to continue to expand the shared bicycle business. "We are almost out of funds now," Su Mo said calmly to the team. "We need at least 50 million in investment to cover most areas of Shanghai City. But we are too young. Will investors trust us?" Tang Lei asked worriedly. Su Mo nodded. "This is indeed a problem. However, we can attract investors' attention through advertising and the actual results of the project. As long as we do well enough, they will see our potential." The other members of the team were silent for a while. Su Mo's determination gave them some confidence. A few days later, Su Shuang stood by the hospital window and saw Dean Tang actually come downstairs to talk to Su Mo. The two were laughing and chatting happily on the street, and the atmosphere was harmonious. Su Mo was moving a bicycle, looking busy and confident. Seeing this scene, Su Shuang felt uncomfortable. "Our Dean Tang is really interested in Su Mo." Jiang Pingting smiled gently. "If Dean Tang really adopts him as his adopted son, then Su Mo's future will be limitless. Otherwise, how could he attract Dean Tang's attention?" Aunt Song also laughed. Su Shuang looked at Su Mo's busy back, and her heart became more and more entangled. She knew that if Dean Tang really decided to adopt Su Mo, he would get tremendous resources and support, and then Su Mo might really be able to break free from the shackles of the family and become independent. After returning home, the atmosphere was completely different. The family was still embarrassed that Su Juinja failed to pass the exam, and everyone was discussing plans to travel abroad. During the conversation, the eldest sister Su, wanting suddenly asked, "Mom, does Su Mo want to go with us? I know you're worried about him." However, Su Mo doesn't know how difficult the outside world is. He thinks he can survive by leaving our Su family, but I want to tell him that he is nothing. Without our Su family, he can't make a single move in society. Just wait. He will be back in a few days. Xie Bingyan continued. Upon hearing this, Su Shuang hesitated to speak. Suddenly, She couldn't help but tell Xie Bingyin about Su Mo's situation in their hospital. Director Tang of their hospital wanted to adopt Su Mo as his son, and Su Mo's bike-sharing project seems to be really not simple. However, Su Shuang thought about it and didn't say anything. She didn't want to ruin Xie Bingyin's mood. Chapter 45, Investing Money. Benefactor. After finishing her meal, Su Shuang returned downstairs and saw her elder and second sisters stealthily rummaging through the refrigerator. Their cautious looks aroused her curiosity, but she did not ask any more questions, but just watched them continue to be busy. Xie Bingyin and Su Juanzhou were preparing to travel abroad, but Su Shuang had no time to join them because her schedule was already full with the hospital's shifts. She could only wait until tomorrow to return to the hospital to continue working. On Su Mo's side, a middle-aged woman came over. This woman named Tang Jingyi obviously took a great interest in Su Mo, especially after learning that he was an orphan and the top scholar. She would occasionally meet Su Mo outside the hospital and would always stop to chat with him. Tang Jingyi once joked about wanting to adopt him, but Su Mo had already calmed down and rejected any form of salvation. He no longer longed for the warmth of a family, especially the love that came from that kind of false pity. We have put more than 100,000 bikes into use, and the number of users is growing every day, Su Mo said. Although there are still problems with funding, the concept of shared bikes can make cities better. Tang Jingyi expressed great appreciation for Su Mo's entrepreneurial spirit. The concept of sharing and dedication is really good, and the world needs such innovation. At this time, Jiang Pingting also came over and heard Su Mo discussing the funding issue. She couldn't help but joked. If you lose money on hundreds of thousands of bicycles, it will be a big loss. Su Mo smiled and said, so we are looking for angel investors. Once the funding problem is solved, we can expand further. Jiang Pingting was slightly surprised. Angel investment? You're going to do something big. The current scale is far from enough. We need at least 50 million in funds to cover the entire Shanghai city. Su Mo's eyes flashed with confidence. Tang Jingyi smiled and said, you have a good vision, kid. Although it seems difficult now, I believe you have the ability. Future success is not far away. Su Mo smiled slightly. Let's hope so. Whether it succeeds or not, at least we tried. After returning to the hospital, Tang Jingyi and Jiang Pingting continued to discuss Su Mo's project. President Tang, are you really optimistic about this shared bicycle project? Jiang Pingting asked, with a hint of curiosity in her eyes. Tang Jingyi nodded. This kid has a unique vision, and the project has great potential. What he lacks now is just funding and opportunity. Once he seizes it, the future will be limitless. Jiang Pingting pondered for a moment and suddenly thought of something. Dean, our Jiang family will hold a charity dinner in a few days. Many entrepreneurs will attend. I can take Su Mo to meet these investors. Tang Jingyi's eyes lit up when she heard this. This is a good idea. Ask him to bring the business plan and seize the opportunity to convince those investors. Jiang Pingting smiled and said, I also want to see if this confident orphan top scholar can really change the world. A few days later, Su Mo received an invitation from Jiang Pingting. The Jiang family is going to hold a charity dinner, and many entrepreneurs will attend. Aren't you short of money? I'll help you arrange it and give you the opportunity to showcase your project. Jiang Pingting smiled playfully. Really? Su Mo's eyes were full of surprise. He didn't expect that he would get such an important opportunity. Don't be too happy too soon. Jiang Pingting teased. I can only introduce you. As for whether you can get investment, it depends on your own ability. Thank you. Su Mo's joy was beyond words, and he almost jumped up and hugged her. Jiang Pingting smiled and waved her hands. This can be regarded as my repayment of your favor. Remember, you must be confident at the dinner and show your 100% belief in success. You must make investors believe that your project will definitely succeed. Su Mo nodded firmly. Don't worry, I will definitely not let them down. Chapter 46. Being proud in front of the Su family? On the other side, Su Shuang put on an exquisite dress and prepared to attend the Jiang family's charity dinner. The house was strangely deserted. Su Deming and Xie Bingyin took Su Juanzhou abroad. Without notifying Su Mo, Su Shuang was not surprised at all because her family never liked Su Mo. She recalled Su Mo's cold words to his family after the college entrance examination. Xie Bingyin was furious and has not yet calmed down. She shook her head, stopped thinking about it, and drove the black Bentley worth $2 million to the Jiang family manor. This banquet brought together celebrities and entrepreneurs from all walks of life in Shanghai City. It was a good opportunity for her to make new friends and build connections. After entering the manor, Su Shuang greeted the crowd, but her eyes wandered around the banquet hall from time to time. Suddenly, her eyes were fixed on the corner of the first floor, the young man in a black suit who looked particularly heroic. Who else could it be but Su Mo? Why is he here? Su Shuang couldn't help but frown. A young girl nearby explained with a smile. That was brought by Jiang Pingting. She said he was the top scorer in the imperial examination and is also starting a business. He's pretty impressive. Starting a business? Su Shuang was even more confused. What on earth was Jiang Pingting doing? Why did she bring Su Mo to such an important occasion? The project he's working on is pretty good. It's called Shared Bicycles. It has received 10 million in investment and is now valued at 500 million. Another girl said excitedly. 500 million? Su Shuang was shocked, then sneered. This is just bragging. How can a few broken bicycles be worth 500 million? Who would invest money in him? The girl next to him shrugged. I think this project is very promising. Anyway, they are looking for angel investment, and 50 million is not impossible. Su Shuang was dismissive. She had always been skeptical about shared bikes. In her opinion, this was just something Su Mo had messed around with and wasted his money on. She had tried to dissuade Su Mo, but he not only didn't listen, but also spoke harshly to her. Thinking of this, she couldn't help but feel angry. At this time, Su Mo, led by Jiang Pingting, was introducing his shared bike project to several investors at the banquet. He confidently demonstrated the current user growth and future development prospects. We have put 150,000 bikes into service, covering Xuzhou district, and more than 2,000 new users join every day. We estimate that within a month, the number of users will exceed 100,000. With 50 million angel investments, our scale can be expanded rapidly and even reach a valuation of more than 1 billion. After hearing these figures, several investors showed interest and began to carefully read the business plan submitted by Su Mo Jiang Pingting. Standing aside, could not help but be surprised by Su Mo's confidence and plan. She did not know the specific progress of the project before and did not expect the scale to be so large. This kid has a really good eye, an investor whispered in admiration. He may really have a chance to disrupt this industry. However, Su Shuang, who was upstairs, was annoyed when she heard these words. She stared at Su Mo's figure and sneered in her heart. He will definitely be embarrassed and won't get a penny of investment. In the end, he will only become a laughing stock. Su Shuang looked at Su Mo down there and became more and more annoyed. I just feel that he will definitely bring shame to the Su family. Chapter 47. Su Shuang was stunned. An investment of 150 million. Su Mo stood in a corner of the banquet, his voice calm but firm. He explained the concept of shared bikes to several investors, and more people gathered around him. Jiang Pingting smiled and handed him a microphone, indicating that his voice should be heard further. The conversation in the hall gradually quieted down, and everyone's eyes were on him. The sharing economy is not a new concept, Su Mo said calmly, but it is a new model. We have put 150,000 shared bicycles in Xuzhou district. The average usage time of each bicycle is 30 hours in a month. Based on the charging standard of 1.5 yuan per half hour, the daily income of 150,000 bicycles can reach 225,000 yuan. This project has huge growth potential. Su Mo's words attracted the attention of more investors. They began to whisper and were obviously very interested in his project. Su Shuang sat on the second floor, watching this scene coldly, with a hint of disdain in her eyes. He is just a dirty thief, and he dares to talk about sharing in such an occasion? It's really ridiculous. The girl next to him chuckled and said, what he said does make sense. This bold idea may really succeed. The loss rate is less than 1%? An investor asked. Do you think this data is credible? Su Mo smiled and continued. We have to believe in the quality of the citizens. In fact, after monitoring and data analysis, our bicycle loss rate is indeed very low, which also gives us the confidence to continue to expand. Hearing this, people around nodded, and some have begun to seriously consider the feasibility of the project. Su Shuang on the second floor stared at Su Mo impatiently, her heart full of sarcasm. He thinks he can succeed like this? It's a joke. However, the development of the matter was far beyond her expectations. Suddenly, an investor stood up and walked towards Su Mo to talk in a low voice. After a moment, The investor took out his mobile phone, said a few words to the assistant next to him, and quickly signed an agreement. After a while, a cry came from upstairs. 150 million. Tonghua Investment has decided to invest 150 million in him in exchange for 10% of the shares. Su Shuang froze and her expression suddenly changed. How is this possible? Did someone really invest in this project? Yes, it was Tonghua's leader Zhou Shiming who made the decision himself. The girl next to her said with a smile, a hint of excitement in her tone. 150 million? Su Shuang's heartbeat quickened as she looked at Su Mo, who was shaking hands with investors downstairs, in disbelief. She had always thought this was a ridiculous project and Su Mo was just a useless brother, but now, he had received an angel investment of 150 million. How is this possible? Su Shuang murmured. The investors downstairs continued to discuss. The concept of sharing is indeed very promising, and this young man has a good vision. This may be the next big trend, and the future market has great potential. Su Shuang was completely stunned. The brother she once looked down upon was now soaring in front of everyone and easily obtained a huge investment. She couldn't accept this reality, but the facts were laid bare before her. Chapter 48, Why Do You Want to Poison Him? The venue suddenly became lively. The news that Su Mo had just received investment spread throughout the banquet, and people around him congratulated him. Su Mo smiled and responded to everyone politely and appropriately. Thank you, Mr. Zhou, for your trust, and thank you all for your support. Our company will make the sharing economy bigger and stronger, and I hope there will be more opportunities for cooperation in the future. Su Shuang, who was on the second floor, watched quietly, with mixed emotions in her heart. Su Mo's speech had already ended, but the term internet sharing economy continued to ferment in the venue, and more people began to discuss this emerging model. Even the several socialites around her started to discuss it. The concept of sharing economy is really novel and may become a trend in the future. Yes, especially for an investment of this scale, the consequences cannot be underestimated. Su Mo, this high school student, is indeed extraordinary. Listening to these discussions, Su Shuang couldn't help but snort coldly. She still couldn't believe that Su Mo, who was once ignored at home, was actually praised by so many people outside. Courage and vision? Su Mo can have such things? Su Shuang secretly mocked in her heart. She still couldn't get rid of her past prejudice against Su Mo. In her eyes, Su Mo has always been a cowardly and inferior person who has done nothing. How could he become a rising star in the business world? After the banquet, Su Shuang returned home alone, but she was still restless. She planned to go to the streets the next day to learn about the shared bike project in person. The next morning, as soon as she sat down, Aunt Song handed her a newspaper. The front page of the newspaper had a striking headline. 150 million in financing, sharing economy ushers in new opportunities. Aunt Song, this? Su Shuang asked in surprise. Aunt Song smiled and said, it's the project done by the #1 scholar Su Mo. It has become the headline news. It seems that he is really famous. Su Shuang quickly turned on her computer and searched for relevant news. Sure enough, the internet was full of discussions about Su Mo and shared bikes, with various commentators and investors enthusiastically discussing the potential and future of this new economic model. Bold ideas, daring to challenge the traditional business model. This is the first young man who dares to try it. A high school student has created a brand new economic model. The future is worth looking forward to. Su Shuang's eyes widened in disbelief. She slowly realized that Su Mo's success was not accidental, but the result of careful consideration and hard work. His achievements exceeded her expectations and even far exceeded her perception of him. Just then, the cell phone suddenly rang, interrupting her thoughts. Shuang, where are you now? The anxious voice of elder sister Su Wanning came from the phone. I'm at the company. What's wrong, sister? Su Shuang felt that her elder sister's tone was not right. Can you please excuse yourself and come to my office? I need to talk to you about something. What's so urgent? Can't you tell it on the phone? Su Shuang was even more confused. It's hard to explain over the phone. We have to meet in person. Su Wanning's tone was filled with nervousness and urgency. Su Shuang's heart sank, and she immediately asked for leave and went to her elder sister's office. When she walked into the office, she found that Su Wanning's eyes were red and swollen, as if she had been crying, and she looked exhausted. Sister, what's wrong with you? What happened? Su Shuang had an ominous premonition in her heart. Su Wanning took a deep breath and calmed down, then looked directly at Su Shuang and said in a heavy tone, Shuang, I have something to ask you, and you must answer me honestly. Sister, what exactly do you want to ask? Su Shuang felt her heart beating faster. Why? Why did you poison Su Mo? Why on earth do you want to kill him? Su Wanning's voice was low and cold. Su Shuang was startled, and her face turned pale in an instant. What? I poisoned Su Mo? Sister, what are you talking about? How could I do such a thing? The heavy metal content in Su Mo's body exceeds the standard. It's palladium poisoning, and this palladium came from your laboratory. Don't tell me this is a coincidence. Su Wanning stared at her fiercely, her eyes full of anger and pain. Su Shuang was completely stunned, her voice trembling. Sister, this is impossible. How could I poison him? He's our brother. Stop quibbling. You are close to Junsha. I know you don't like Su Mo, but that's not a reason for you to poison him. No matter how much he disgusts you, he is still a member of our Su family. Su Wanning couldn't help but shed tears. Sister, I really didn't do that. I could never do such a thing. Su Shuang almost collapsed. She kept denying it, but deep in her heart, a sense of fear was spreading. Su Wanning threw a stack of information in front of her. These are all evidence. Take a look for yourself. Don't think I don't know anything. Su Shuang stared at the documents blankly, feeling as if she had fallen into an icy cave. The documents recorded some of her actions in detail, and each one pointed directly at her suspicion. Her mind was in a mess, and she found it difficult to accept this cruel reality. I really don't know, sister. How could I have poisoned him? I couldn't have poisoned him. Even if he used to go to my hospital often, that's nothing. I have no reason to poison him. Don't you have a reason? Do you want me to find out what you have done? Su Wanning said angrily, took out a piece of paper, and threw it in front of Su Shuang. There were many things written on the paper. Take a good look at what you have done above. You have no reason to poison Su Mo. Now, I think you are the most suspicious. Su Shuang picked up the document in surprise and took a look at it. Her face turned pale. On a certain day of a certain month of a certain year, a colleague in the hospital lost his cell phone. It happened that Su Mo had gone to Su Shuang's hospital to deliver porridge. Su Shuang suspected that Su Mo had stolen it and went home to report to Xie Bingyan. Xie Bingyan was furious and gave Su Mo a severe lesson, forcing him to not eat and make him pay for his colleague's cell phone. Su Mo was afraid of being punished further, so he didn't dare to deny it. So he secretly worked part-time for 7 days and borrowed some money. He finally raised enough money for the phone and returned it to Su Shuang. Later, Su Shuang's colleague's phone was found in the office cabinet. It wasn't stolen by Su Mo. Su Shuang did not apologize to Su Mo. Year, month, day. Chapter 49, he has always admired you. Su Wanning's eyes were as cold as knives. Palladium, this heavy metal, ordinary people can't touch it. Only you can get it from the laboratory. Shuang, you can't escape. I didn't. Really not. Su Shuang almost lost control and stood up suddenly. I hate Su Mo, but I never thought of killing him. You hate him. You always think he's not worthy of being your brother. When you brought your boyfriend home, you directly said he was a servant. You never acknowledged him. Su Wanning's eyes were full of pain and disappointment. You think he is lowly, but that's not a reason for you to hurt him. Su Shuang's breathing was rapid, and her heart was beating like a drum. She couldn't refute it. She really didn't like Su Mo. She never denied that, but she never thought of killing him. The fear in her heart became stronger and stronger, as if she was in an abyss and couldn't find any way out. Sister, regarding the things you said, I really never thought of killing him. It could have been someone else, Su Shuang said hurriedly, trying to defend herself. Others? Su Wanning sneered. Then who is it? The third brother? The fourth brother? They have no chance to touch palladium. Only you, Su Shuang. Only you can touch it. Su Shuang froze, her thoughts in a mess. She knew that no matter how many excuses she made, they would seem pale and powerless at this moment. Su Wanning's eyes were red, and she choked up as she said, he never told anyone that he was poisoned. He always knew that someone wanted to harm him, but he never complained or made a fuss. These words hit Su Shuang's heart like a heavy hammer. She stood there blankly, almost unable to breathe. Su Mo has known you since he was a child and admired you. Su Wanning's voice became weak, but full of grief. He first saw you in the orphanage when you went to the free clinic. Do you know how happy he was at that time? He has always regarded you as his most admired sister, and even thinks that you are the greatest pride in his life. Su Shuang's face turned pale, and she could hardly stand. She had never thought that Su Mo had always admired her. A brother whom she had never looked at straight in the eye actually valued her so much in his heart. Su Wanting wiped her tears and continued. He had run to the first affiliated hospital many times just to secretly take a look at you and confirm that you really existed. He was extremely proud to have a sister like you, but you never gave him even one recognition. The document in Su Shuang's hand fell to the ground. She couldn't believe it. Were these really what Su Mo was thinking? Her heart seemed to be pierced by a sharp knife, and pain and regret surged in her heart. She murmured to herself, I, I don't know. I never thought about it. Su Shuang. He has been poisoned and is on the verge of death. You are a key suspect. Su Wanting wiped away her tears and said firmly, You'd better think clearly about everything you have done from now on. If you are really innocent, help us find the real murderer. Su Shuang stared blankly at the document in front of her, her inner defenses completely collapsing. Her former disdain and indifference towards Su Mo now became a huge rock weighing on her heart. Chapter 50. Every case is shocking. Su Shuang stood there blankly, as if she was in an endless confusion. Su Wanting's words, like sharp swords, echoed in her mind. She lowered her head and looked at the documents on the table, her eyes blurred. Those documents listed everything she had done to Su Mo, one by one. The indifference, hurt, and neglect again and again now pierced her heart like a sharp thorn. She began to think of the first time she saw Su Mo. The thin and timid little boy followed his father, Su Deming, with anxiety and desire in his eyes, as if he was craving a little family affection. This is your fifth sister, Su Shuang. She is a doctor. When her father spoke, Su Mo's eyes lit up instantly. At that time, she didn't know what it meant, but she just felt that Su Mo's hands were dirty. After shaking hands, she hurriedly wiped them with a tissue. From then on, Su Mo was like an outsider, cautiously moving around the Su family's mansion, his eyes full of fear and unfamiliarity with everything. Su Shuang once laughed at him, saying that he was like a bumpkin from the countryside, exploring this strange world step by step. Now, recalling all this, Su Shuang felt chilled to the bone. She raised her head suddenly, choked up, and said to Su Wanting, Sister, I never thought of harming him. I really didn't. I just never cared about him. But you never realized that this kind of neglect is deeper than any harm. Su Wanting's voice was weak, but full of anger and helplessness. Su Mo grew up in an orphanage. When he first saw you, his heart was full of expectations. He regarded you as his most admired sister. But what about you? You never gave him even a trace of warmth. Su Shuang bit her lips tightly, her throat dry. But how could I poison him? Although the palladium powder is in my laboratory, it doesn't mean that That's palladium from your laboratory. Don't try to deny it. Su Wanting interrupted her coldly. It could be you, or the third or fourth brother. It could be anyone. Su Shuang felt suffocated, her hands trembling. Sister, I didn't expect things to turn out like this. Things have turned out like this. Su Wanting gritted her teeth, tears welling up again. Our family has never cared about Su Mo, never taken any care of him. He was forced to apologize to the dog alone, and we forgot about him during the trip. Now he's gone, he left us. Su Shuang's memories flooded back like a flood. She recalled that when they were traveling last year, no one noticed that Su Mo was missing until very late. She didn't think there was anything wrong at the time, but now when she recalled it, her heart ached like a needle. Sister, Su Mo's bike-sharing project is going to be successful. Su Shuang suddenly spoke up, trying to change the subject. He received an investment of 150 million yesterday. What? Su Wanting widened her eyes in disbelief. Yes, 150 million. The shared bike project he is working on has attracted many investors. And even Dean Tang wanted to adopt him, but he refused. We thought he would have nothing to do after leaving home. But you see, he did not rely on any resources from our family. But he succeeded, and he is very outstanding, Su Shuang said, as if all this was beyond her imagination. 150 million, he really succeeded. Su Wanting murmured, walked to the window, her eyes empty. He is better than all of us. At the age of 18, he has already achieved something that we can never achieve in our lifetime. Her tears fell again, and her voice was filled with deep regret and helplessness. He no longer needs us, Shuang. He has proved himself with his own strength, and proved that he is no worse than any of us. He no longer needs those of us who once looked down on him. Su Shuang stood there, silent for a long time. Every word Su Wanting said hit her heart like a heavy hammer. She finally understood that the brother whom she had ignored and treated coldly had already gone ahead of them. They had already lost him. Sister, what should I do? Su Shuang's voice choked, and tears finally flowed from the corners of her eyes. Su Wanting turned around and said softly, we need to find out who really poisoned him. Maybe this is the only chance to save him. Chapter 51 Su Mo is growing stronger. Su Shuang felt bad seeing her elder sister in tears, but she did not hesitate and began to explain the shared bicycle project to Su Wanting. On the other side, Su Mo, Tang Lei, and 3 others were celebrating. Obtaining 150 million yuan in financing means that the overall valuation of their entire project has reached 1.5 billion yuan. This is definitely an astronomical figure for them, who are just high school students. With the addition of such a large amount of funds, their project began to expand rapidly, quickly covering the entire Shanghai city, and then developing in other cities. It is estimated that 600,000 bicycles will be needed to cover the entire Shanghai city, and there will be no fewer bicycles in other cities. China has nothing else but a large population and many cities. There are 4 first-tier cities alone, and there are also second-tier and third-tier cities. Their market space is very large. So after coming back, Tang Lei, Gu Huanqi, and others were so excited that they couldn't sleep. Gu Huanqi and Li Banzwang also went to the market to buy a bunch of seafood. They cooked together and made a table full of dishes to celebrate. We need to recruit people, at least 60 people. Right now, many things need to be put on the agenda. People who find cars, people who park cars, people who maintain cars, people who do follow-up operations, warehouses, legal affairs, and people who deal with urban management. We need to make a plan. We need to finish the work in Xiahai City within a month, and then start to promote it to other cities. Our next city is the capital. Su Mo was very excited and told them their plan. They have all finished the college entrance examination. The results have come out, and they have already applied. Since they did well in the exam, all 4 decided to go to Peking University and Tsinghua University. Since they are studying at Peking University and Tsinghua University, it is natural for them to move their bicycles to Beijing. The market space in the capital is similar to that in Shanghai City. Once it is expanded, their business can be considered truly successful. Are we going to Beijing to recruit people and set up a branch there? Gu Huanqi said with a smile. That's right. We need to set up a branch there. This month, we will start with Shanghai City, and next month we will start the plan for Beijing. If Beijing is successful, then we will also start the plan for other first-tier and second-tier cities. Su Mo smiled and said, 150 million is not the end, but just the beginning. We may still get more financing and make the company even bigger. Tang Lei smiled and said, Su Mo, we can expand, but the organizational structure needs to be more complete. Of course, our internal management needs to be improved. We must first stabilize the country before we can fight against foreign enemies. We need to recruit people as soon as possible and complete the training as soon as possible. Next, we need to be more complete and develop faster. Su Mo nodded. Good. Seeing Su Mo's ambition, everyone was excited and began to discuss the next steps. With money, you can naturally do more. Next, you need to advertise and build your reputation. Su Mo estimates that their bonus period will only last 1 or 2 months. After 1 or 2 months, there may be followers and other big capitals will enter the market, so they need to hurry up. After the discussion, everyone started to get busy again. Due to lack of manpower, Su Mo still needs to go out to move bicycles occasionally. Recently, all the recruits are in training, and they can only start working after completing the training. His work area was still at the first affiliated hospital, and he met Jiang Pingting several times. Of course, Su Mo is full of gratitude to Jiang Pingting. If it weren't for her, they wouldn't have been able to get such a large amount of financing. Seeing her coming, Su Mo put down what he was holding and started chatting with her. We are growing rapidly. Once we have money, we will promote it throughout Shanghai City. We estimate that 600,000 bicycles will be needed for promotion. Mr. Zhou came to our office yesterday and checked the data. He should be very satisfied and very interested in this project. When Jiang Pingting heard him say that, she immediately smiled and said, I also heard Mr. Zhou's feedback. It was beyond my expectations. I didn't expect your data to be so astonishing. Su Mo smiled and said, if everyone gives a little love, the world will become a better place. You're quite ambitious. You said before that the concept of sharing has just become popular, and there will be more in the future, right? Jiang Pingting said with a smile. Of course. Now is just the beginning. In the future, our city and our world will become more convenient. We are also launching a new plan internally, which is called shared electric vehicles. Suemo smiled and said, "You don't need to pedal to run. It's convenient and fast. You just need to scan the code." Zhang Pingding was surprised. "Are your shared electric bikes similar to bicycles? Are they everywhere on the streets?" Suemo smiled and said, "Of course. This is one of our goals. With this, our transportation will become more convenient and faster. We have calculated the loss rate. Although the cost of an electric car is higher, it is not ridiculously high. We can definitely make it." When Zhang Pingding heard this, she gave him a thumbs up. "You are really ambitious. You don't look like a high school student." Suemo looked at her and smiled. "Thanks to Miss Zhang's help. Otherwise, we wouldn't have been so successful. Come on, there's not much I can do to help you. You have to make it on your own. By the way, our Dean Tang just asked me to say hello to you. Our Dean Tang is very optimistic about you," Zhang Pingding said with a smile. Suemo turned around and looked at the first affiliated hospital. Seeing a kind woman in a white coat looking down from the window on the 10th floor of the first affiliated hospital, he could not help but nod and say, "Thank you very much. Next, we will develop even faster and live up to everyone's expectations." When Zhang Pingting heard this, she immediately laughed and continued to negotiate with him. Dean Tang Jingyi is already quite old, in her 50s. She is said to have no children and wants to adopt one. In addition to Zhang Pingting, she has also come to ask about the progress several times, and now Su Imo naturally answers all her questions. The work is progressing rapidly, and it seems that because of the newspaper report, more and more people are becoming aware of this project. As more and more people started using bicycles, his number of users began to increase rapidly again. After talking with Su Wanting, Su Shuang went to work at the hospital as usual. In order to confirm the shared bicycle project, she and Su Wanting drove around the streets of Xujiang district. There are indeed many Su Mo's cars on the streets. Many people use it. When they came over, they saw some people scanning the code to use the cars. It was very convenient and seemed to be very popular. You can ride away by scanning the code and paying a certain deposit. It's simple and convenient, and very easy to use. If you don't lose the bike, the profit margin should be huge. Su Shuang began to explain. Su Wanting took a look, nodded, and wiped the corners of her eyes with her hand. "I used to think this project would never work. He was just wasting money, and I still have this anxiety now. This project is great. Share your stuff with others." Su Wanting sniffed. It's hard to imagine that he could come up with such a project. When he was in our house, no one was willing to share even a little bit with him. Su Shuang was stunned. "Do you know? Shuang, do you know what Suemo most wants in our family?" Su Wanting said. Su Shuang shook her head. "You know, you've been to an orphanage before and met those orphans. An orphan actually longs for one thing the most, and that is family and parents." Su Wanting said. "When he came back to our house for the first time, he must have been very excited and eager. But we don't understand these things at all. Even now, I'm afraid my parents may not understand." Su Shuang frowned, feeling complicated. She didn't say much and continued to walk around a few streets with Su Wanting before going back. Su Wanting also wanted to investigate who poisoned Suemo, and the matter was very serious. Su Shuang knew that she could not clear herself of suspicion, so she could only go back to work. It seems that Sumo's fame has grown because of shared bicycles. On several streets near the first affiliated hospital, Su Shuang met him again carrying bicycles. Unlike before, there were many more people around Su Mo these times. There was even one time when she saw several girls surrounding him and talking. It can be seen that he has been very popular among girls recently. But when Suemo saw her, he mostly pretended not to see her. He didn't even say hello, as if he didn't know her at all. Once, Su Wanting went over to ask something, but Suemo looked gloomy and left quickly, which made her angry. That champion is really incredible. He raised 150 million yuan, and it is said that all the streets will be filled with them. We're also going to Beijing to promote it. The concept of sharing is really famous. Back in the office, Aunt Song and Zhang Pingting were both amazed, as if they had witnessed a miracle with their own eyes. Under their eyes, Suemo is growing up healthily. I don't know why, but when I heard these words, Su Shuang suddenly felt very uncomfortable. Chapter 52, but now. It's so cruel. In fact, Su Shuang has always known that Suemo likes her very much. I like it very much. Perhaps because of the small age difference between them, Suemo was more willing to chat with her. When I first returned home, I would chat with her almost every day, asking her all kinds of questions, which was really annoying. Su Shuang was busy with work and only replied to him occasionally. Later, as she saw him sending her messages more and more frequently, she became increasingly annoyed and stopped replying to his WeChat messages from then on. Su Shuang opened WeChat and took a look. The last WeChat message between her and Suimo was 2 years ago. In other words, since 2 years ago, Suimo has never sent her any messages. I still remember the first few months when Suimo just returned home. He received dozens of messages every day. Until 3 years ago, Su Shuang still received a message from him every day. Why did it gradually disappear? When did you realize that there was no such thing? I just realized it now. She had no memory of it at all. Listening to the discussion between Jiang Pingting and Aunt Song at this time, Su Shuang remembered the information that her elder sister handed to her. There were many things in it that she had not finished reading. Now she suddenly felt as if a piece was missing in her heart. It became empty, and she felt uncomfortable all over. Sistering, did you know? Our class won first place in the school in the football competition today. Sistering, I got first place in mathematics again in this monthly exam. Sistering, someone from the hospital came to the school for a physical examination today. I thought it was from your hospital. I'm so happy. Sistering, I saw someone outside today who looked like you. Su Shuang looked dazed. She opened her phone and looked at the chat history between herself and Su Mo. She suddenly realized that there were still 30 or 40 records on it after Su Mo stopped sending her any messages 2 years ago. However, these records were sent to her by Su Mo, and she had never replied before. This lasted for 3 months. He would send her a message every 2 or 3 days. Later, as if seeing that she didn't reply, Su Mo gradually stopped sending messages. Was she busy at that time? It's not busy, actually. Her job is relatively easy. Except for the occasional busy time during surgery, most of the time, she is quite leisurely. In recent years, when she had free time, she would occasionally travel, go shopping with her girlfriends, go out to eat and drink, but she never even looked at these messages. He must have been very proud to tell her at that time that he had got first place in mathematics and also first place in the monthly exam. He probably has no one else to share with, as he doesn't have a good relationship with other people. He has the closest relationship with her, so he shares his progress with her to show off. He probably wanted to get a response or a recognition, but I don't even look at it. Even after he finished the college entrance examination and won the top spot, he still felt it was impossible. Su Shuang suddenly didn't dare to finish reading these dozens of messages. Most of them were about things he encountered in school or some happy things he saw, which he excitedly sent to share with her. Everything inside made Su Shuang feel at a loss. She suddenly didn't know how to face this world, how to face Su wanting and others. Dean Tang went downstairs to deliver food to the top scholar. Dean Tang really cares about him. Who doesn't like an excellent child? Dean Tang said he has a liking for him. Dean Tang has already received news about the financing. He has been without a father or a mother since he was a child. He is indeed pitiful. It is normal for Dean Tang to want to care for him now. I just don't know if he is willing to be adopted. Aunt Song and Jiang Pingting continued to hear their conversation. Su Shuang folded her hands, curled up in her seat, and shivered. Dean Tang, Jingyi brought a meal. There was a bowl of soup in it. This was not the first time she had sent him here. This was already the 4th time. Su Mo felt a little strange about her and wondered why she wanted to adopt him as her son. But when I heard Jiang Pingting say yesterday that Dean Tang had no children, I felt relieved. Maybe she just wanted to have someone to rely on when she is old. Su Mo naturally didn't want to get involved in her family's affairs, but now Su Mo suddenly remembered another problem, which was that his household registration had not been moved out of the Su family. This is a very big problem for Su Mo. The probability that he will need his household registration when doing things in the future is very high. Only by moving his household registration out will it be more convenient for him to do things. It can be seen that I still have to go back to the Su family and move my household registration out. Aunt Tang, please don't bother preparing meals for me. I can just eat outside. Thinking of this, Su Mo said to Dean Tang. Dean Tang said with a smile, "Why are you being so polite, kid? I'm alone at home, so it won't take much time to make one more portion. Don't you have nowhere to eat? How about this? You can come to my house and eat during this time." Su Mo immediately smiled. "I have a place to eat. I'll eat with my friends. How can you kids be as good at cooking as your Aunt Tang? Let me tell you, your Aunt Tang has learned it. If you are free tomorrow, bring your friends to Aunt Tang's house for dinner. It so happens that no one is at home, and we want to have some fun," Dean Tang said with a smile. Aunt Tang, you are so polite. We have to go on a business trip tomorrow. Then in a few days, Dean Tang said with a smile. Seeing her hospitality, Su Mo thought about it and nodded. He didn't want to get involved in these things, but when he heard Jiang Pingding say that Dean Tang's family was very powerful and was a very large family both in the capital and in Shanghai City, it would be very helpful for his future career to establish a good relationship with her. In addition, if he wanted to move out of the Su family, he had to find another household head. If the Tang family was a good choice, it would be fine to move in. Anyway, let's move out of Su's house first. Otherwise, it will be very troublesome later. After exchanging polite words with Dean Tang and sending her away, Suemo saw that the weather was hot, so he took off his shirt and started moving the bicycle with his bare chest. The financing money has been in place, and the subsequent work pressure will be very high. Many things need to be promoted, and Suemo needs to finish the tasks at hand as soon as possible. While he was moving the bicycle, he was planning what to do next. Suddenly, he smelled a faint fragrance, and a figure appeared in front of him. Suemo looked up and frowned suddenly. It turned out to be Su Xuehue. Make way! Suemo pretended not to see it, immediately avoided her, and continued to carry his bicycle. The weather is quite hot, and he has been busy for quite some time. He is now sweating profusely, and his skin has been tanned. Suemo, I'm sorry for you. Su Xuehue's eyes were red, and tears were in her eyes. Suemo immediately looked disgusted as if he had eaten a fly. He didn't bother to pay attention to her, and quickly moved the last few bicycles onto the truck. Let's go. We're done moving. Suemo. Su Xuehue shouted. But Suemo didn't even turn around or look at her. He just got on the truck and left. Seeing this, Su Xuehue started crying. Second sister? Su Shuang was surprised when she saw this scene upstairs. However, Suemo had already left without paying any attention to them. When Su Shuang saw her second sister crying, she felt even more upset. I heard from the eldest sister that Suemo also liked the second sister very much in the past, and even went to her school to take classes secretly. But now, so cruel. Chapter 53, we all underestimated him. Seeing her second sister squatting on the ground and crying, Su Shuang hurried to talk to her and invited her to the hospital. It seemed that Su Xuehue was still crying after seeing Su Mo leave. She was wiping her tears desperately. Su Shuang hurriedly took out a tissue and handed it to her, asking her to wipe her tears well. Second sister, please recover. Su Shuang comforted her. Su Xuehue sniffed. Shuang, did you see that? During this period, Sumo seemed to be crazy and worked very hard. Su Shuang was stunned. When he was the top scorer in the college entrance examination, he always kept a knife in his backpack. When he pulled it out, it scared my parents and us. We couldn't believe it. Su Xuehue burst into tears again. Su Shuang did not go to the back door of number 27 middle school that day, and did not see Su Mo draw his sword, but she was quite shocked when she heard what they said later. He was filled with hatred and became extremely vicious. He was even merciless when it came to my parents. We didn't quite understand these things before, but now when we think back on them, it hurts like a knife in our hearts. Su Xuehue looked at Su Shuang with tears in her eyes. I think once Su Mo succeeds, he will definitely take revenge on us. Su Shuang's expression suddenly froze. What I am most afraid of now is that he will do something stupid. When I see him, I feel that he has fallen into hysterical madness. This state is very scary. He should not be so desperate about this world, nor should he be so desperate about our family. Su Xuehue continued. Su Shuang thought for a moment and said, the project he is working on now is very good. It is shared and full of love. This is very contradictory, you know? Very, very contradictory. According to Sumo's current situation, he would never do such a project. I am very worried about his condition now. Su Xuehue sniffed. Su Shuang also felt that this project might be a bit cruel for Su Mo. She heard that his slogan was that if everyone gave a little love, the world would become a better place. How could this kind of project and slogan be proposed by Su Mo? Not to mention Su Xuehue, she felt that it was a bit distorted and unreal. Su Mo, he is close to success. He has raised 150 million yuan and seems to be making big moves recently. After thinking for a while, Su Shuang spoke. He will definitely take revenge on us. In the future, he will definitely take revenge on us. Su Xuehue cried. He doesn't want to contact us now because he is still immature. Once he is fully grown, he will definitely return to the Su family to take back everything that belongs to him. Shuang, I have seen people like Suemo. He suppresses his anger to the extreme and usually does not show it at all. But once he lets it out, it will destroy the world. We all underestimated him. He is capable, intelligent, and resourceful. Even without the Su family, he is still living a very good life. I believe that he will definitely make us pay for everything that happened to him, step by step. Hearing Su Shuehui say this, Su Shuang's face became extremely solemn. You know what? He said that it was my elder sister and I who poisoned him and wanted to kill him. Su Shuehui continued crying and said, we didn't want to poison him, but he knew that someone in our Su family wanted him dead. He always remembers this. Second sister, please stop talking. Su Shuang suddenly felt frightened. We can dislike him, ignore him, and despise him, but there is no need to poison him to death, right? Shuang, I hope you can find out with us who poisoned Suemo. Only when we figure out everything can we give him justice. Su Shuang was silent for a moment, thought about it, and nodded. Okay. Xie Bingyin, Su Deming, and others are very happy today. The five of them went to Paris, took a lot of photos, and posted them in the family group. The Eiffel Tower, the Louvre, the Arc de Triomphe, the Champs-Élysées, the Sacré-Cœur, and the Seine River. It was fun and joyful. Since there were still 4 or 5 people at home who didn't go, they sent back the photos they took to share, which were full of laughter and happiness. I don't know since when Suemo is not in the family group. Maybe it started from the time he lost his phone. Suemo didn't say it, but he might have given up on the Su family since last year. In the family group, Xie Bingyin took Su Juanja and others to buy a lot of gifts, including jewelry, cosmetics, clothes, and everything else. Also asked them what they wanted and brought some back to those who didn't go. The sixth sister Su Yuechan was probably studying in the capital and had no time to go. So when she heard them say that, she became very excited and asked for a bunch of things. Originally, Su Shuang also wanted to ask them for something, but at this time, she was not interested. They are coming back and will probably bring a lot of gifts, but I guess Suemo still doesn't have it. I have confirmed it, Su Wanting told her. Su Shuang also felt cold all over, wondering whether she should talk to Xie Bingyin about Su Mo's entrepreneurship before they came back. But after thinking about it, she felt that if she told them, it might ruin their mood to continue traveling. And even if she told them, it might not change anything. So Su Shuang chose to remain silent for the time being. Perhaps it was similar to what the second sister said. Suemo already hated them, very much. But this kind of hatred could only be dealt with after finding out who poisoned them. The current suspect is the third sister Su Manny. Wait for her to come back. Su Mo is making rapid progress. Phoenix Bike has been working at full capacity to produce bicycles for him. The payment for some bicycles has been settled, and Su Mo has ordered another 200,000 bicycles. With 150 million yuan in funds received and most of the streets already furnished, Sumo's user growth has become even more gratifying. Now we can add at least 10,000 users a day. The road in Shanghai City has been almost paved, so Su Mo, Tang Lei, and 3 others went on a business trip to the surrounding cities of Daning and Yangzhou. These 2 cities are second-tier cities, relatively close to Shanghai City, and are satellite cities of Shanghai City. Su Mo wants to finish paving them before going to school. These 2 cities do not need many bicycles. 2 or 300,000 will be enough. When the bicycles in these 2 cities are completed, they can report to Beijing. There are only a few days left until school starts. If you need to provide the company with a vehicle and a driver, you can just provide a small truck worth tens of thousands of dollars and let the driver collect the bicycles. I want every bicycle to have someone responsible for collecting it. The person in charge of regional management should assign tasks to the collectors. The damaged bicycles should be taken back and repaired. The loss rate should be reduced as much as possible. When Tang Lei heard this, he laughed and said, Suemo, aren't we developing too fast? We haven't done many things yet. Suemo glanced at him and said, I heard that someone else also wants to do this project, and there are big investors behind it. We can't compete with these big investors, so we can only speed up our pace to occupy the market as much as possible. We need to make our brand famous first and let everyone know about our little monster bike. Is there anyone else who wants to do this? Tang Lei, Gu Huanqi, and the other 2 were surprised. Suemo nodded. Very soon, if we don't hurry up, the market will be taken away by others. Our bonus period is already very short. Okay, then let's go faster. We have money now anyway. Tang Lei nodded. But Suemo, Aunt Tang is here again. While they were chatting, Li Banzwang suddenly smiled mischievously. Suemo looked up and saw an old woman walking towards him with something in her hand. Who else could it be but Dean Tang? Su Mo. I think the Tang family should be pretty good. Aunt Tang is probably sincere as well. Gu Huanxi said with a smile, a hint of envy in her eyes. Su Mo shook his head and said, she doesn't understand my situation yet. I'll explain it to her in a few days. If she still has this idea after I've explained it to her, then we can talk about it later. Your household registration is indeed a big problem. If you don't have it, many subsequent things cannot be done. This should be resolved as soon as possible. Tang Lei said. Good. Chapter 54 Xie Bingyan is ill and admitted to the ICU. The household registration problem should be relatively easy to solve. After all, Su Deming and Xie Bingyan don't care about it. It's just that Su Mo lacks a household owner to move in. In fact, it is not necessary to have a head of household, and the children can just be moved back to the orphanage. Su Mo has severed ties with them, and the police should acknowledge it. Several people became busy, and when they saw Dean Tang Jingyi coming over, they hurriedly greeted her and chatted with her. The old director was quite kind. After hearing that the four of them were orphans, she often invited them to her home for dinner. As time goes by, they became more and more familiar with each other. The old dean seemed to be afraid of loneliness, so he simply invited the four of them to come over for dinner every day. Su Mo, Tang Lei, and others naturally refused, but after the old dean invited them several times, they occasionally went over to chat with them. The old dean's husband's surname is Zhao, and his name is Zhao Weigua. He is a chip engineer who has devoted his entire life to the research of domestic chips. He is extremely focused and also very kind. It seemed that because the house had been deserted for too long, Mr. Zhao was very happy to have the four of them come over for dinner. We are progressing very quickly and have now grown to over 60,000 users. We are currently advertising to establish our brand first. While eating, Su Mo and his three companions explained the company's development to President Tang and his wife, hoping to get some advice from them. Both of them are senior intellectuals with extensive experience. With their suggestions, Su Mo and his three companions can move forward more smoothly. The loss rate has increased a lot. Recently, some people have been stealing our bicycles, and some have even secretly pushed our bicycles into the river. We are working on solving this problem. More importantly, the city management department has expressed some opinions about the appearance of bicycles, and some bicycles have been taken away by the city management department. Dean Tang and Mr. Zhao heard this and asked, why did the urban management take it away? Su Mo spread his hands and smiled. Too many. They said it affects the city appearance and interferes with pedestrians. Of course, not much was taken away. Only a small part. Dean Tang smiled when he heard this. Not much is good. Your project is convenient for pedestrians, and it has a very big effect on environmental protection and reducing traffic congestion. Shanghai City should support it. We also hope they can support it, and we're trying to communicate with them. But these are small matters, and we will solve them one by one in the future. Good. You kids have ideals, courage, and are very smart. You will definitely succeed. I am optimistic about you, Mr. Zhao said with a smile. Dean Tang also spoke up. If you four don't have time to eat, come to Aunt Tang's place every day to eat. Aunt Tang's place is deserted, and there is no one here. I hope you can come here every day. Su Mo and Tang Lei looked at each other, nodded and smiled. Thank you, Aunt Tang and Mr. Zhao. We will come over if we are free. Well, Dean Tang couldn't help but feel happy when he heard this. When she went to cook, Gu Huanxi and Li Banzwang hurried over to help. Gu Huanxi and Li Banzwang were quick and hardworking, which made Dean Tang very happy. Su Mo and Tang Lei continued to watch TV and chat with Mr. Zhao. Xie Bingyan is sick. The illness is very serious. The plane flew from Paris to Shanghai City at around 9 o'clock in the evening. After getting off the plane, Xie Bingyan began to have a fever and vomit, and became unconscious, so she was rushed to the first affiliated hospital. It was probably the climate change that caused them to feel unwell. Not only Xie Bingyan had a fever after returning, but Su Deming, Su Juanja, and Su Manny all started to have a fever at the same time. Since Su Shuang was a doctor in the first affiliated hospital, her whole family was sent there for treatment. When they heard that Xie Bingyan had lost consciousness and started vomiting, Su Wanting and Su Shuehui rushed over to check. It must be the climate change that has caused me to feel unwell. I have started to have a high fever. Juanja and Manny are better, but Mom's condition is weak, and it's very serious. I'm now on a 4 drip and need to see how it goes tomorrow. Su Shuang treated Xie Bingyan and others, looking worried. Are they going to be okay? Su Wanting asked. No, it's just a fever. It will be fine as long as it goes down, Su Shuang said. I'm glad you're okay. Seeing that they were all sick, Su Wanting did not dare to leave the hospital and could only stay with them in the hospital. This time they went out for a trip and brought back a lot of gifts, including several suitcases. Judging from the photos they posted in the group, they must have had a lot of fun. The symptoms of Su Juanja, Su Mani, and others were milder, but Xie Bingyin's condition was more serious. Su Wanting, wearing a mask, pushed open the door and walked in, only to see Xie Bingyin lying on the hospital bed with an 4 drip. Su Shuang said it was okay. So it was okay, she just had a high fever. Su Wanting looked at Xie Bingyin's pale face and didn't know whether she should notify Su Mo and ask him to come over as well. Let's ask Su Mo tomorrow. Mom's illness is quite serious this time. I hope she can get better soon. Su Shuehui knew what Su Wanting was thinking and spoke. Su Wanting nodded. That night, Su Wanting, Su Shuehui, and Su Shuai did not leave the first affiliated hospital and were responsible for taking care of 5 patients. Su Wanting and Su Shuehui also went to see Su Mani. They saw Su Mani lying on the hospital bed, looking weak, and felt serious. I originally wanted to investigate whether it was Su Mani who poisoned her, but now it seems that I need to wait for her to recover first. Now Su Mani is also unconscious. A day passed quickly, and on the second day, the symptoms of Su Mani, Su Juanja, and others improved a lot, and they regained some consciousness. However, Su Shuang checked their condition and found that their fever had not subsided and they were still in a daze. The diagnosis has come out. It is a viral cold, which is very serious. Su Shuang went to check on Xie Bingyin and Su Deming again and found that Xie Bingyin's condition was even worse, with rapid breathing, cyanotic lips, and chills all over. It's probably a viral flu from abroad. She needs to be treated immediately. Mom's symptoms are serious. She now has a high fever of 41 degrees. If it gets worse, she will need to be admitted to the ICU. Su Wanting and Su Shuehui didn't expect that they were so seriously ill. They were immediately shocked and hurriedly said, "Then what are you waiting for? Go to the ICU first." Good. The Su family is wealthy and not short of money. What's more, Su Shuang is a doctor. When she found out that Xie Bingyin's symptoms were not right, she naturally admitted her to the ICU immediately and prepared a ventilator to assist her breathing. Su Wanting and Su Shuehui were waiting outside, feeling anxious. Time passed during the treatment, and when it came to the afternoon of the next day, Su Mani, Su Juanja, and others had finally gotten much better and their fever had begun to subside. However, Xie Bingyin is still in the ICU and her symptoms have not improved. The fever this time was quite severe. Fortunately, we treated it early, otherwise it would be very troublesome. Su Shuang breathed a sigh of relief when she saw Su Mani and others recover. But Mom still needs to be paid special attention to. I hope it doesn't get worse. Good. After Su Mani, Su Juanja, and the other two's fever subsided, their symptoms improved a lot, and they were gradually able to eat and talk again. Su Wanting and Su Shuehui chatted with them for a few words, but had no time to spend with them, so they turned around and continued to take care of Xie Bingyin. Xie Bingyin was lying on the hospital bed with a ventilator. She opened her eyes vaguely at this time. Wanting, what time is it? 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Mom, do you want to drink some porridge? So I wanted to feed her a mouthful of porridge first. Okay. Wanting, I feel uncomfortable, probably because of a fever. Xie Bingyin's face was pale and her lips were purple. Su Wanting took a look and said hurriedly, "You won't feel uncomfortable once the fever goes down. You'll be fine soon." Well, Wanting, you should consider your lifelong event. Xie Bingyin suddenly spoke. Su Wanting's face froze. Shuehui should start to think about it. Otherwise, if she keeps being busy, she will become an old maid. Xie Bingyin said. Su Wanting nodded and said, "We will consider it. Don't worry, Mom." That's good. Xie Bingyin said a few words and began to feel drowsy. Seeing that she had fallen asleep, Su Wanting put the porridge aside and walked out with Su Shuehui. "Shuehui, look after Mom. I'm going to go find Su Mo." "Sister?" Su Shuehui looked at her hurriedly. "Mom has been admitted to the ICU, and her fever has not subsided yet. You should come and see her. As long as he comes, we can talk to him." Su Wanting said. Su Shuehui sniffed. "What if he doesn't come?" "He's not coming," Su Wanting said with difficulty. "I don't know either. Let's take it one step at a time. In short, he is qualified to know this matter." Su Shuehui suddenly didn't know what to say. She just felt that Suimo should know. Chapter 55, he no longer has to look up to anyone. Although Xie Bingyan might not be in any serious condition, she just had a high fever and would be fine in a few days. But since they have already been admitted to the ICU for treatment, the two still hope that Suimo can come and visit them. After all, they are his biological parents. No matter how strained a family is, outsiders cannot compare. As the saying goes, blood is thicker than water. Su Wanting and Su Shuehui also hope to take this opportunity to have a good chat with Suimo. They haven't had a normal chat with Suimo for a long time. Every time they went to see Suimo looked disgusted. Su Shuehui and Su Wanting knew that what they had done before was wrong, and they were wrong. They could swear that they would never do that again, and they just hoped that Suimo could come home. Su Wanting simply took the parasol and wanted to go out. Sister Ting, where are you going? Su Shuang suddenly came over and asked. I'm going to look for Suimo. Mom has been admitted to the ICU for treatment. I hope he can come and visit her. After all, we are a family, Su Wanting said softly. Su Shuang hesitated after hearing this and said, I'll go with you. I know where he is. Good. In fact, Su Shuang doesn't dare to see Suimo now. The first few times she met him, Suimo ignored her and acted as if he didn't know her at all, which made Su Shuang feel at a loss. She had already read part of the chat records with Suimo a few years ago. There were 30 or 40 unanswered messages, most of which were about trivial things Suimo talked about and things that made him happy. He clearly had so many things he wanted to say to her and share with her. But now, he pretended not to know her. I think Suimo has already understood all this. Suimo also knows about our chat group, right? After they left the hospital, Su Shuang suddenly asked. She was quite resentful about the things in their sister chat group. Most of the messages on it were actually mocking Suimo. She was similar to Su Manny and had posted many messages. Suimo knows. Su Wanting nodded. Su Shuang's face changed, and her breathing became much faster. Su Wanting looked at her and said, he knew very well that you didn't like him and excluded him from our home, and sometimes even bullied him. He must have endured it for many years, until he became an adult and got his ID card. When he left home, he left without hesitation. I thought he was just playing around, Su Shuang said with difficulty. Su Wanting was too lazy to say anything more. Where is he now? Take me there. He rented an office next to the hospital, in Mingding Building, Su Shuang said. Mingding Building? Su Wanting was stunned for a moment, and soon followed her to a building. This building is very tall, with 30 or 40 floors. It is a rather luxurious building near the first affiliated hospital. Most of the buildings on this building are office buildings. However, when Su Wanting looked up at the building, her eyes suddenly turned red. This building is similar to the Tianhao building where her company is located, with almost no difference in shape, height, plaques, or decoration style. These two buildings were actually built using the same blueprint. Which floor is he on? Su Wanting sniffed, her eyes red. On the 23rd floor, he rented a floor to use as his own office. It is said that the number of staff in their company has increased to 120, Su Shuang said. The 23rd floor. Su Wanting felt like tears were about to burst out. This was almost the same floor as her office. That time, Su Mo went to her office and was full of interest, like Granny Lu entering the Grandview Garden. He once vowed that he would work in such a place in the future and hoped to become as outstanding as those office workers. He once looked at all that with great anticipation, his heart full of longing. However, he only went there once, and there was no way for him to go up there again. Now, he used his own strength to rent a floor for himself, and no one could drive him out. He realized his dream. But why? Su Wanting only felt sadness and annoyance, as if a large piece of her heart was suddenly missing. Her heart was so blocked that tears were forced out of her eyes. Sister Ting, Su Shuang noticed her abnormality and called out hurriedly. Su Wanting wiped her eyes hurriedly. I should let him go to Tianhao building to have a look. He used to want to work in Tianhao building, but now he doesn't have to go. He has it himself. He doesn't have to look up to anyone anymore. Su Shuang's face froze. Let's go. Let's go find him. Su Wanting sniffed and said, as long as he is willing to go to the hospital to visit Mom, then it will be easy. Su Shuang didn't know how to comfort her, so she could only nod and follow her towards Mingding Building. Suimo should be on top. Recently, in addition to moving bicycles, he has been training new employees on it and explaining the company's future plans. Monster Bike is developing very fast. It has shipped over 300,000 to 400,000 bikes so far, and the number is still increasing every day. I heard from Jiang Pingting and Ant Song that the Little Monsters Incorporated has spread to surrounding cities. In the past few days, Su Shuang also took a special look at the concept of internet sharing economy. Many internet businessmen praised this concept and felt that it was an emerging economy and a new trend. I still remember that day when Su Mo attended the banquet. He talked to some people and introduced the future plans of the internet sharing economy. Even in front of many business tycoons, he remained calm and composed and spoke of his ideas slowly and at a leisurely pace. Shared bicycles are not the only thing. There will be more sharing economy in the future, such as shared books, shared electric vehicles, shared cars, shared power banks, etc. These concepts have now been discussed by many people. They want to see if these concepts can succeed. From this point of view, if someone had come up with these concepts, then Sumo's vision would be so accurate that it is terrifying and definitely not comparable to that of ordinary people. Su Shuang couldn't comment on such a person for the moment. The company was on the 23rd floor, and the two took the elevator and arrived quickly. There is a huge plaque hanging here with a yellow background and black fonts, which is quite eye-catching. On it are written in large letters Little Monster in a flamboyant manner. There is already a front desk on duty, and there are many employees working inside, all in an orderly manner. It can be seen that Su Mo has done an excellent job in planning this aspect. Even an executive like Su Wanting, who controls a cosmetics company worth tens of billions, can't find fault with it. It is hard to imagine that Su Mo could achieve such a level in his career in just a few months. "Who are you looking for?" the receptionist asked when they came in. "Let's look for Su Mo. Where is he?" Su Wanting asked. The receptionist looked at the two women with exquisite attire and noble temperament and said in surprise, "Please leave your name and identity first, and I will go back and inform our general manager Su." Su Wanting and Su Shuang nodded and left their messages. "May I ask what you want to do with Mr. Su? We are his sisters and want to meet him," Su Wanting said. "Mr. Su's sister?" The receptionist was surprised and looked at them. "This is my business card." Su Wanting took out a business card and handed it to the front desk, afraid that Su Mo would not see her. The receptionist took the business card and looked at it, and was immediately surprised. You are?" She seemed unable to believe that Su Wanting and Su Shuang were Su Mo's sisters, and could not help but look surprised. But she took a look and couldn't help muttering, "Basu has a sister? Isn't she an orphan?" These words made Su Wanting and Su Shuang feel uncomfortable. "Wait a minute. I'll go inform our general manager Su. He's in a meeting inside," the receptionist said hurriedly. "Good." The receptionist probably didn't know whether their identities were real or fake, so she left quickly. Su Wanting turned around and said to Su Shuang, "Let's go up with her. Su Mo may not want to see us." Upon hearing this, Su Shuang nodded and followed the receptionist inside. There were already many people working in the company's office, and it looked quite busy. The receptionist quickly walked to the general manager's office, knocked on the door, and went in. Su Wanting and Su Shuang also hurried over. "No, let them go." As soon as he reached the door, Su Mo's voice came from inside, full of coldness. "Su Mo." Su Wanting hurriedly pushed the door open. There were several people sitting in the office. They were probably discussing the company's future development plans and were looking at some documents. When they saw Su Wanting and Su Shuang push open the door, everyone was shocked. Su Mo's face suddenly turned dark. "Su Mo, I know you are here. Big sister. I have something to talk to you about," Su Wanting said hurriedly. "It won't take much time. You can talk to your sister first, okay?" Chapter 56. Do you want to send them coffins? Su Mo's face was as black as charcoal. He didn't know why they kept coming to his house again and again. Now Su Mo didn't have any good feelings towards them at all. Su Wanting and Su Shuang are not white lotuses. It was definitely not an accident that Su Mo died in their hands in his previous life. After thinking for a while, Su Mo turned to Tang Lei and said, "Tang Lei, you guys go out first. I'll call you later." Tang Lei looked at it and nodded. "Okay." Having said that, he walked out. "By the way, please call the security guard over for me. There is no need for outsiders to stay in the office." Su Mo continued. Tang Lei nodded and said, "Okay, I'll go call the security guard." A group of people hurriedly got up and walked outside with the documents. When Su Wanting saw Su Mo was about to call security, her eyes couldn't help but turn red. The office is rather simple, without much decoration. There are big green words "share" on the wall, and a yellow bicycle is placed next to it. On the other side, there were two bicycle wheels. They must have been discussing how to optimize the configuration of the bicycle. Different from what we saw a few days ago, Suemo was wearing a suit and shirt, and he looked very heroic with this outfit. He is no longer the high school student who only knew how to wear school uniform and was sloppy all day long. He is no longer the little brother who only knew how to follow around behind his sisters like a little puppy all day long. Now Suemo gave them a very strange feeling. It seemed that someone outside was about to call the security guard over. Su Wanting did not dare to hesitate and hurriedly said, Suemo, did you know that Mom is in the hospital? She is in the ICU, in the first affiliated hospital. After these words were spoken, Su Mo's dark face paused for a moment. He stared at them without saying a word, with an expressionless look on his face. They just came back from abroad and were infected with the virus. They are now being treated in the first affiliated hospital. Suemo, can you go see Mom? Su Wanting continued hurriedly. As soon as these words came out, Suemo laughed. Su Wanting's face froze. She's not dead. With sarcasm, Su Wanting's eyes widened immediately. Are you here to inform me to set off firecrackers? Or do you want me to go to the first affiliated hospital to set them off? Suemo looked very happy. If this is really the case, then I really want to buy a string of firecrackers and set them off. Today is really a happy day. When Su Wanting and Su Shuang saw him laugh, they felt as if they had fallen into an icy cave and their whole bodies were cold. Suemo, what are you talking about? That's Mom. Su Wanting couldn't believe it. That's your mother. Not my mother. My mother died a long time ago. My whole family is dead, Suemo said calmly. I don't understand what you are doing here, but the news you brought is very good and worth celebrating. Su Shuang felt uncomfortable listening to this and hurriedly said, Suemo, no matter what, you can't say such a thing. Mom is still in the ICU. She has a viral infection and is not yet out of danger. How can you say such a thing? Then what should I say? Su Shuang, how should I say these words? Suemo suddenly smiled and looked at her. Can I go over and beg you? My good fifth sister, can I beg you to use your medical skills to treat her well? You. Su Shuang was choked by him. Aren't your medical skills quite advanced? Back then, many children in the orphanage were cured by you and your group. I was very envious of you at that time, Suemo said with a smile. But suddenly his face changed and his expression turned cold. But it's not like that anymore, Su Shuang. Not anymore. I'm no longer the silly little boy I was back then. Don't even think about using your bullshit family affection to kidnap me. I'm telling you, I don't recognize these things now. I don't recognize any of my relatives anymore. I really should buy some firecrackers and run to the first affiliated hospital to set them off. He was finally admitted to the ICU for treatment. I am so happy. This is the best news I have received today. Su Wanting's tears were already coming out. Suemo, woo-woo, I'm sorry for you. I apologize to you because of me. Suemo didn't even look at her and suddenly smiled again. You went abroad and got infected with the virus? You went with that adopted son, right? When did you go? Did you have fun? Were you happy? You must have been quite happy for so many days. I know what you are thinking, but your retribution has just begun. Suemo, although I feel sorry for you, our mother is still in the rescue. No matter what, you cannot go to see her. It's too heartbreaking for you to say such things. Su Shuang couldn't help but say. Suemo smiled. Really? Does it make people feel chilled when I talk like this? Didn't your words back then make me feel chilled? Don't be silly. Su Shuang, don't I know what kind of shit you are? Let me go see her now. Sure, I'll send her a coffin. Su Shuang was surprised and her eyes widened. Do you want to send them coffins? If you do, I can go and take a look. Suemo stared at her and turned vicious again. I tell you, Su Shuang, whether you live or die has nothing to do with me. I don't want to have anything to do with you anymore. Even if all your Su family members are dead, I won't even look at them. And Su Shuang, I still have a lot of accounts to settle with you. Later on, I will slowly settle them with you. Don't think you can get away with it. Su Shuang's face changed, and she opened her mouth slightly. Mr. Su, are you calling me? At this time, 2 security guards came over. Kick these 2 out and never let them enter the office again, Suemo said to the security guard. He turned to look at Su Wanting and Su Shuang again. We are no longer relatives. The next time we meet, we may be enemies. After saying that, Suemo turned around and looked out the window. Suemo, I'm sorry. Su Wanting started crying. The 2 security guards were surprised to see this, but they did not dare to disobey Su Mo's order and said to the 2 women, Ladies, let's go. Don't let us chase you away. Su Wanting's eyes were blurred with tears, and she had no choice but to turn around and leave. Su Shuang obviously didn't expect Su Mo to become so terrifying. Her face turned pale, and she opened her mouth as if she wanted to say something. But in the end, she said nothing. The two were quickly chased by security guards and ran out of Mingding building. When she walked out of the building, Su Wanting suddenly squatted on the ground and burst into tears. When Su Shuang saw her like this, her eyes suddenly turned red. "We are sorry for him. We are sorry for him," Su Wanting cried. Su Shuang felt bad too and sighed. "Sister Ting, you should get up first. If it weren't for us, he wouldn't be like this. Shuang, it's all because of us." Su Wanting couldn't stop crying and sobbed. "Now even Mom doesn't want to see him. He may never come back to our house again." Su Shuang said helplessly, "Let's go back and take care of our parents first." Taking care of our parents is the most important thing now. Sumo, if he wants to go over and take a look, then go over. If he doesn't want to, we can't force him. Didn't you hear what he said? This matter is not over yet. He really hates us so much that he wants us to die sooner. Su Wanting cried. "Shuang, we are all sorry for him." Su Shuang recalled the time when Su Mo shared his happiness with her and the scene when he won first place. Thinking back to the ridicule and mockery from their sister group, she felt a deep sense of regret and guilt. She remembered that one time, she took screenshots of the messages sent by Su Mo and sent them to the chat group to make fun of them. At that time, she was also very happy. She should be a cold-blooded person, very, very cold-blooded, and Su Mo has become even colder-blooded now, looking like he would definitely make things easy for her. Su Shuang couldn't help feeling a little panic. The two had no choice but to return to the hospital in shame. At the entrance of Mingding building, Su Wanting squatted at the entrance and cried for a long time. When she returned to the first affiliated hospital, her eyes were red. Su Shuehui was startled when she saw them coming back and asked hurriedly, "Su Mo hasn't come yet?" Su Wanting didn't answer and sniffed. Su Shuang shook her head and was unwilling to say more about meeting Su Mo. Seeing this, Su Shuehui's eyes couldn't help but turn red. She could predict that the scene when the two of them went to meet Su Mo would definitely be unusual. Chapter 57, We All Have Something We Desire. A little earlier in time, Su Mo stood quietly on the high balcony, watching Su Wanting and Su Shuang crying below, and then supported them and staggered out of Mingding building with a blank expression on his face. Not far from Mingding building is the first affiliated hospital, which is very busy and bustling with traffic every day. Several streets near the first affiliated hospital are filled with Su Mo's bicycles, with as many as 200 to 300 on this side alone. At this time, he stood on the balcony motionless, watching Su Wanting and the other person gradually disappear. Boom, boom, boom. There was a sudden knock on the door from behind. Su Mo did not turn around or say anything. The office door suddenly opened, and a graceful figure walked in slowly, then closed the office door again. "It's Gu Huanxi." She came to the balcony, stood with Su Mo, looked up in the direction of the first affiliated hospital with a complicated look on her face. But she didn't say anything, nor did she look at Su Mo. She suddenly stretched out her hand, feeling the sunlight coming through the glass, as if she wanted to catch this ray of sunlight, and her expression was comfortable. "Su Mo, are you okay?" She suddenly turned her head. "It's okay," Su Mo said calmly. Gu Huanxi thought for a moment and suddenly smiled. "Remember when we were 8 years old? We were so eager for these things in the orphanage. At least you were lucky. At least you know they are still alive. They are already dead," Su Mo said indifferently. Gu Huanxi laughed. "Tang Liban's Wang and I are very worried about you. You haven't been in a normal state recently. You have been anxious to prove yourself and have been working very hard during this period." Su Mo shook his head. "I don't need to prove anything to them. The reason I do this is just to make our future better." "Okay, if you say so, then so." Gu Huanxi smiled and said, "Remember? That year, the 4 of us played the family game in the room. We played each other's family members and imagined what they might look like. Except for half makeup, the other 3 of us had no memory. We used pens to draw what they might look like, made masks, and wore them on our faces. We had so much fun and were so happy at that time, thinking that this might be what they really look like. We all dreamed of meeting them in our dreams one day." Su Mo stopped talking and remained silent. "Many times, they only left us a photo or an item that we dreamed of, and we protected them closely. We all felt that it was unlikely that they would abandon us. The reason why we ended up in an orphanage must be because they had no choice. In time, they would definitely take us back. Tang Lei and I have been waiting for that day. We have been waiting and waiting until now, but there is no result. It seems that they will never come, never appear. Do you remember when you were 14 and your identity was confirmed? Tang Lei and I cried in the room for the whole day. We all hated them for not coming with us. Su Mo turned to look at Gu Huanqi, only to see her tears glistening and tearing across her pretty face. As she spoke, her voice became hoarse. But I don't even know what they look like. They never showed up. Su Mo thought about it, then reached out and patted her on the back. Gu Huanqi sniffed and raised her head to stop the tears from falling. She suddenly smiled again. We used to long for these things, long to see them, long to get their love, long to have everything they have, but now, we don't long for them anymore. We have finally grown up. Su Mo was silent for a moment, then opened his hands. Gu Huanqi chuckled while crying, then walked towards him and threw herself into his arms. Su Mo immediately hugged her tightly. This was the first time Su Mo hugged her after he turned 18. In the past, they were considered to be men and women, so they would not do such intimate actions. When he hugged her, Su Mo immediately smelled a strong fragrance coming from the girl, which was very pleasant. Gu Huanqi is very tough and hardworking. All the children in the orphanage are like this. They are never spoiled, and she has always been very strong. After hugging for a while, Gu Huanqi finally stopped crying and struggled slightly to break free from his arms. I don't know what happened to you in the Su family. Tang Lei and I are very worried about your condition. You have been a little crazy recently. Gu Huanqi wiped the tears from the corners of her eyes. I'm fine. It's just that some things haven't been resolved yet, Su Mo said indifferently. I would rather they had never appeared. Upon hearing this, Gu Huanqi suddenly reached out her hand and gently touched his face. But they still showed up. No matter what, this is something to be thankful for. Even though they are bad in every way, they still took you back. Su Mo shook his head. Huanqi, you don't understand. They don't deserve it at all. I have lived for so many years and have never seen such people who are worse than pigs and dogs. Gu Huanqi couldn't help but smile bitterly. Okay. I won't interfere with your affairs. Tang Lei and I just hope that you can be well. We still have a lot of things to do, and there are many places we haven't been to, and we have never enjoyed them. Now that our careers are established, we can all live seriously. Su Mo nodded. The Su family's affairs will not end here. I'm just not prepared. The enemy is strong? Gu Huanqi tilted his head. Very strong. He hasn't made a move yet. He has been watching, Su Mo said calmly. Last time I provoked him, I thought he wouldn't be able to hold back, but I can see that he held back. He didn't move at all. If you need help, please tell us. I believe as long as we work together, we will be able to get through it, Gu Huanqi said. Su Mo was silent for a moment, then nodded. Okay. I will go to the first affiliated hospital after get off work this afternoon. Next, let's work hard. We have to go to school, and there are still many things to be done. Su Mo's face froze, and he wanted to say something, but Gu Huanqi had already turned around and left. We all have something we desire. No matter how bad the situation is, we don't want them to really die. Tang Lei and I have never seen what they look like. I have always been thinking that even if they don't want us and they hate us, we still want to see them, even if we can only dream about them. Gu Huanqi spoke again when he reached the door. You don't have to worry. Huanqi, I would rather they all died, Su Mo emphasized. I know, Gu Huanqi said with a smile. Then from now on, work hard. There is no need to affect your mood because of them. Su Mo sighed in his heart. Okay, I'm leaving. Thank you for the hug just now. I feel much better. Gu Huanqi winked at him playfully, then opened the door and went out. When Su Mo saw her leave, he turned around and looked in the direction of the first affiliated hospital with a serious face. Gu Huanqi thought he was still longing for these things, but in fact she didn't know that Su Mo had already lost all hope in his heart. As someone who had died once, Su Mo knew very well what kind of shit the Su family was. It would not be unfair for them even if they were cut into pieces. If he wasn't too busy, Su Mo would have liked to buy a few strings of firecrackers and set them off in front of the hospital to celebrate. He didn't want to ask whether the people over there were dead or alive. Su Mo was too lazy to pay attention to these things. He turned back to rest for a while, then called Tang Lei and others in to continue the meeting. As the company grows bigger and new concepts emerge, Su Mo recently needs to attend several meetings to explain the concept of the internet sharing economy. This was requested by Monster Bike's investor Zhou Shiming, in order to pave the way for Monster Bike's next round of financing. Suemo may need to raise funds again. He hopes that this time the market value can be increased 5 or 6 times. The current valuation of Sumo's company is about 1.5 billion. After it grows 5 or 6 times, it will be able to reach between 70 and 80 billion. Once it reaches this level and continues to develop, Suemo can consider selling it for cash. Many people are paying attention to the shared bicycle project. As it develops further, the competition will be very fierce. If it is not well controlled, it will go wrong and eventually go bankrupt. Therefore, the best option is to cash out when the market value is at its peak and take the money and leave. Suemo has not yet told Tang Lei, Gu Wangsisha, and the other two about this matter. They need to develop first before considering this matter. After selling the company and getting the money, Suemo will need to make plans for the next step. Suemo has already planned clearly what to do next. This is a more valuable and creative project than shared bicycles, and it is also the career that the four of them should really do. Chapter 58, The Untamed Wolf. Suemo got busy and started to expand. At the first affiliated hospital, the intense rescue efforts had passed, and Xie Bingyan was not seriously ill after treatment in the ICU. In the afternoon, she was discharged from the ICU and transferred to general treatment. Su Deming, Su Juanja, Su Manny, and others also began to gradually recover from their fever and regain consciousness. Su Wanting was responsible for taking care of them. She hasn't told them about Su Mo yet. She wants to wait until they recover. Su Wanting is afraid of disturbing their recovery. A day and a night passed quickly. Su Deming, Su Juanja, and others had begun to recover and were able to move freely. Only Xie Bingyan still had a serious fever and was sometimes awake and sometimes asleep. Su Wanting waited for another day before Xie Bingyan felt much better and her fever returned to normal. She asked Zhao Ma to cook some porridge and bring it over for everyone to eat. Is Mom feeling better? Su Juanja's voice suddenly rang out while he was feeding Xie Bingyan. Su Wanting looked back and said, "Much better. Sister, you go and do your work first. You've been tired for a few days. Let me take care of Mom." Su Juanja walked over and said with a smile, as if to please her. He has fully recovered and was just exercising in the ward, showing off his muscles and strength. "Let me do it." "You're not fully recovered yet. You need to rest for another day." Su Wanting shook her head. "I'm fine now. It's really strange that I caught such a serious cold during my trip to Paris." Su Juanja came over, took the bowl from Su Wanting, and said with a smile, "Sister, go to the side and rest for a while. I see you're tired." Seeing him so proactive, Su Wanting hesitated for a moment and looked at Xie Bingyan. Xie Bingyan was relieved to see her adopted son like this. "Wanting, you are indeed tired. Lit yunse come. I'm almost well." Su Wanting saw it and didn't know what to say, so she gave her seat to Su Juanja. "Juanja, you're going to Beijing to go to school. School will probably start in a few days. You need to prepare well during these few days." Su Deming, who was sitting on the other side, spoke. "Dad, I get it. I'll prepare it as soon as I get home tomorrow." Su Juanja said with a smile. "Are you looking forward to Peking University and Tsinghua University?" Su Deming looked at his adopted son. "Of course I'm looking forward to it. I've been longing for it for a long time. My older sisters both go to school there, and I've wanted to go in and take a look since I was a child." Su Juanja said with a smile. Su Deming also smiled. "Just look forward to it. Once you enter the school, study hard first." "Thank you, Dad. I will," Su Juanja said with a smile, then brought the porridge and fed it to Xie Bingyan. "Mom, be careful, it's still hot." "Okay." Xie Bingyan nodded and smiled. "Our Juanja is filial. When he goes to school, he will study hard and do well. You must remember that if you encounter any problems at school, you must call and tell Mom." "Okay. I understand. I will definitely tell you," Su Juanja replied. "Good." Xie Bingyan couldn't help but feel very satisfied. Her love for her adopted son ran deep in her bones. Su Wanting looked at the loving mother and filial son and originally wanted to say something about Su Mo, but in this situation, she didn't know how to say it. I'm afraid that once it's said out loud, it will seriously affect the mood of Xie Bingyan and Su Deming. She stood up and walked outside. "Sister, about Su Mo." Outside, Su Xuehui looked at her with hesitation. "Let's wait and see tomorrow. They haven't recovered from their illness yet," Su Wanting said. "Oh." Su Xuehui had no choice but to nod. Neither of them mentioned it. After more than half a day, Su Juanja seemed not to have fully recovered and returned to his ward to sleep. Su Deming seemed to remember something and called Su Wanting over. "Boss, come in for a moment." Su Wanting was resting outside. When she heard him shouting, she hurried in. "Dad, you called me?" Su Deming nodded. "Make me a cup of tea. My cup is out of water." "Oh." Su Wanting hurriedly made tea for him. "Wanting, where is Su Mo?" Su Deming suddenly asked when he saw her busy. Su Wanting was startled, turned her head to look at him, and a trace of panic appeared on her face. "Where is Su Mo now?" Su Deming continued to ask. It seemed that after hearing these words, Xie Bingyan, who was lying on the bed, also opened her eyes. They seemed to have just remembered that they had a child. Su Wanting looked flustered, thought for a moment, and said, "Dad, you and Mom are not well yet. Are you asking where Suamo is? What has this rebellious son been doing all this time? Does he know that your mother is in the ICU for emergency treatment?" Su Deming said angrily. When Su Wanting heard this, she didn't know how to explain it and quickly turned to look at Xie Bingyan. Xie Bingyan's expression also turned cold. "Boss, don't you know what he is doing?" Su Wanting sighed when she heard this. He already knew that Mom was admitted to the ICU for emergency treatment, but he didn't come. "We have already gone to inform him." "Didn't come?" Su Deming stared at her. Su Wanting nodded. "He doesn't want to come." After these words were spoken, not only Su Deming, but also Xie Bingyan's expression instantly became as black as charcoal, extremely cold. Okay. This rebellious son is indeed a rebellious son. I knew he would be heartless and unfilial. He didn't even come to see his mother when she was in the ICU for emergency treatment. What else can we expect from him? Su Deming was furious. Xie Bingyan was also very angry and said, "I also guessed that he would definitely not come. Su Deming, your son is useless. An ungrateful wolf." She obviously hadn't recovered from the last time Su Mo drew his sword against them, and her heart was still full of resentment. Hearing this, Su Wanting felt extremely uncomfortable. After thinking for a while, she said, "Maybe he's been very busy recently and didn't come over. Have you been asked about the school he applied to?" Su Deming stared at her. "No." Su Wanting shook her head. "He didn't even ask us. He probably felt that he had grown strong enough to fly solo and didn't need our opinions when applying to any school. Even when we went to Paris to play, he didn't even send us a word of greeting." Su Deming seemed to remember this incident and was so angry that his teeth were itching. It's even more unnecessary now. Such a big thing happened, and this rebellious son didn't even ask a single question. "I'm really pissed off." Su Wanting didn't know what to say and was silent for a while. Compared to Juanja, he is really far behind. At least Juanja still knows how to care about us. "Boss, what is Su Mo doing recently?" Su Deming seemed really angry. Su Wanting hesitated for a moment and sighed. "Su Mo is busy going to school. He also..." "What else?" Xie Bingyan looked at her with cold eyes. She was completely disappointed with Su Mo. He also opened a company and has been busy running it recently. His company is developing very fast. Su Wanting said. "He opened a company?" Xie Bingyan was surprised. This was beyond her expectations. "Where does he get the money to open a company?" "What kind of company?" Su Wanting said. "It's a company called Shared Bicycles. As for where the money comes from, I don't know. Su Mo has been busy with this matter recently. My fifth sister and I went to find him yesterday, but he refused to come to the first affiliated hospital." Okay, you've grown wings, really grown wings." Xie Bingyan was so angry that her teeth itched, and she sneered. Even when his parents were sick, he didn't come to ask about them. He is really an ungrateful wolf. I knew he would never be tamed. Which school did he apply to? Xie Bingyan stared at him, shaking with anger. "I don't know either. He didn't tell me." Su Wanting suddenly remembered this matter. Suamo had never told her about it at all. If he doesn't even come when he's sick, what else can we expect from him? This rebellious son is simply lawless. Su Deming was still angry. Xie Bingyan glanced at him and said, "Su Deming, did you secretly give him money to let him start a company?" "Me? Why would I give him money?" Su Deming said angrily. "You didn't give him money. How could he have the money to start a company? Where did his money come from?" Xie Bingyan didn't believe it at all. "It's because you spoiled him that he became so lawless. I told you a long time ago that Suamo has a bad character and needs to be forced back. If he can't be changed, he will be ruined sooner or later. He will never be able to enter the upper class. I think you must have secretly given him money," Su Deming said angrily. "I thought you were the one who gave him the money. Why would I give him money? This rebellious son really makes me so angry. How could he have money if he wasn't paid? Where did he get the money from?" Xie Bingyan looked at Su, wanting in disbelief. Su Wanting also hurriedly said, I haven't given him any money either. Maybe Suemo has his own way. Besides, his company has successfully raised funds. What? The financing was successful. Su Deming and Xie Bingyan were surprised. Well, he raised 150 million yuan, and now his company's valuation has reached about 1.5 billion. Su Wanning said. Boom! Su Deming and Xie Bingyan were shocked, and their eyes widened in disbelief. 1.5 billion? Xie Bingyan exclaimed. Chapter 59, will he know that money is hard-earned? If it was only 1.5 billion, it would not be a big deal for a wealthy family like the Su family. The Su family's business is huge, involving jewelry, gold, and cosmetics. Although most of them are industries left over from the previous generation, and some are inheritances from the head of the Su family, for an 18-year-old young man, to own 1.5 billion is a very huge concept. You have to know that most of the Su family's assets are immovable real estate, and there is not much liquid capital. The entire Su family's total liquid capital is only a few hundred million. This is already a very huge concept. Suemo only spent a few months starting his business and built a company worth 1.5 billion. This is definitely a miracle whether in Shanghai City or in Beijing. You have to know that he is only 18 years old and just graduated from high school. Boss, you are not lying to me, are you? With his condition, how can he build a company worth 1.5 billion? Xie Bingyan looked at Su Wanting in disbelief. Su Deming frowned and asked, did he get cheated? Who provided him with financing? Xie Bingyan's face immediately turned serious when she heard this. Boss, you'd better explain to me what's going on. Su Mo, this rebellious son, can never build a company worth 1.5 billion. I know him. He can never accomplish anything. Who deceived him? Is he targeting our Su family? No. Su Wanting listened to these words and hurriedly said, Su Mo did a project, and this project was very successful. He got financing some time ago, and he is still working on this project. What kind of project can make 1.5 billion in just 2 or 3 months? Do you not understand, or do I not understand? That is not 15 yuan, nor 150 yuan, but 1.5 billion. You tell me he made 1.5 billion in just 2 or 3 months? Just based on his ability? Xie Bingyan was angry and didn't believe such a thing at all. This is just ridiculous. Su Deming said nothing, staring at Su Wanting solemnly. His project is called Shared Bicycles, also known as the Internet Sharing Economy. It is now very large and has covered most of Shanghai City. No one lied to him, and this project has been favored by many people. Seeing that she didn't believe it, Su Wanting hurriedly explained. Internet Sharing Economy? What is this? Xie Bingyan looked back at Su Deming. Su Deming had never heard of it either and said solemnly, Boss, please explain to me clearly what is going on. What is the Internet Sharing Economy? Is it a pyramid scheme? MLM. Xie Bingyan's face instantly turned cold, and she gnashed her teeth and said angrily, I knew he was a bad student, and I knew he would be a hopeless case. Sure enough, he was doing these illegal things. This rebellious son really pissed me off. How dare he do MLM? No. How could it be this? What Suemo made was not this. It was a shared bicycle, a kind of bicycle. Su Wanting explained hurriedly. Bicycle? What kind of bicycle can make 1.5 billion? Do you think I'm a 3-year-old child? Xie Bingyan was furious. Don't give him excuses. I know all this. He has never been quiet since he came to our Su family. It was like this before, and it's still like this now. Su Wanting felt suffocated when she heard these words. In the past, when Suemo was in the Su family, he probably faced such accusations and prejudices most of the time. He obviously has good grades and excellent talents in all aspects, but his family members think that he has many bad habits and is a hopeless case. And now, Suemo has succeeded. He has successfully realized his previous dream and successfully owns his own company and office. Even in this situation, Xie Bingyan and Su Deming still didn't believe him. Su Wanting felt her eyes getting red again. She sniffed and had to patiently explain to the two of them. First of all, Su Mo is not engaged in pyramid schemes. It has nothing to do with pyramid schemes. He is engaged in a project called Sharing Economy, which is to share his own bicycles with other people. Secondly, there are many yellow bicycles parked on the street outside the first affiliated hospital. They are very conspicuous. Those bicycles are from Su Mo's company. After they successfully raised funds, they developed very quickly. Now they are said to be all over Shanghai City. Third, Mom and Dad, don't be prejudiced. The Internet Sharing Economy is an emerging economy. It was proposed by Su Mo, and it is now popular. Su Mo once explained the concept of the sharing economy at an investor meeting and received a lot of applause. Some investors are very sure of the existence of this economy. So, this is the reason why he doesn't go home and see us? Does he think he has really grown up? Xie Bingyan said angrily after hearing this. He might be very busy at work and doesn't have time to come over. Busy with work? What kind of busy work is more important than parents? Su Wanting, you don't have to make excuses for him. I think he is an ungrateful person who can never be tamed, Xie Bingyan said angrily. Even if he can really start a company worth 1.5 billion, what can he do? He is a heartless and ungrateful person. He will always be a failure. Su Wanting stopped talking and turned to look at Su Deming. Su Deming frowned. Wanting, when did you know about this? I found out a few days ago. Shuang told me. Shuang also just found out about it not long ago. Su Wanting said, if it's a company with 1.5 billion and it's not illegal, then we should take a closer look. I'm worried that someone will target him and murder our Su family. He must be plotting to murder our Su family. Xie Bingyan gritted her teeth. If he goes bankrupt and can't afford to pay, won't it be our Su family that will pay? Su Deming, your son is ruined. He is completely ruined. I read the reports. Sumo's company is developing very well, and it is unlikely to be disrupted in the short term. They are said to have deployed 500,000 to 600,000 bicycles, covering the entire Shanghai city. 5 or 600,000 bicycles. Parked on the streets? Su Deming's face was solemn. Su Wanting nodded. Yes. It's right on the street, near the first affiliated hospital, and there are also some of the subway entrants. There are a lot of them. Isn't he afraid that someone will take it away? Su Deming stared at Su Wanting. Su Wanting shook her head. Someone asked him these questions, and he said not to worry, and believed that no one would take his bicycle away. But I read the report, and someone did steal his bicycle. I knew it. I knew it. Xie Bingyan cursed angrily. This family-running guy must be up to no good. What internet sharing economy? I've never heard of it. Those investors targeted him because they wanted to trick our Su family and drag our Su family down with them. This rebellious son really makes me so angry. Su Wanting was unable to answer this question and could only look at Su Deming for help, hoping that Su Deming would make the correct judgment. Su Deming thought for a moment and said, wait a minute, I'll make a phone call and ask what's going on. As he said that, he walked to the window, took out his cell phone, and made a call. It should be a call to a vice president of the company. As the head of the jewelry industry, Su Deming can connect with many people, and he himself is also a very good angel investor. Soon, Su Deming got the news he wanted and looked back at Su Wanting. When did Su Mo make it? It should have been several months ago, but he got the financing about 10 days ago. This project is very risky and many things are uncontrollable. It will be very difficult for Su Mo to do it well. Su Deming thought for a while and commented. Su Wanting didn't quite understand how this project worked, but if she thought about it carefully, the risks were indeed very high. Su Deming, don't speak for him. If he really implicates our Su family, I will make him pay sooner or later, Xie Bingyan said angrily, gritting her teeth. Upon hearing this, Su Deming sneered. So, he really thinks he has grown strong enough to leave our Su family? He doesn't even want his parents anymore. Su Wanting almost suffocated and said, Dad, why did you bring him back then? Su Deming's face froze. I don't understand why you want to take him back from the orphanage. You obviously don't have to do it, Su Wanting said with red eyes. Boss, what nonsense are you talking about? He's already lawless now. If we don't go to pick him up, won't he become even more lawless? I tell you, none of you can speak for him. I understand now that this rebellious son came back to our Su family just to collect debts. Xie Bingyan cursed and struggled to get up from the bed. Where is he now? Take me to see him now. This time, if I don't teach him a lesson, I won't be named Xie. Mom, how can you teach him a lesson now? Su Mo is an adult. He is already an adult. Su Wanting suddenly burst into tears. If I don't teach him a lesson, I don't know what bad things he can do to implicate our Su family. What shared bikes? I think they are just a scam. Maybe they are trying to defraud investors' money. Xie Bingyan said angrily. Mom, how can you see it this way? I've told you, this is a normal project. Even though it's risky, Su Mo really did it. Why don't you believe him? Su Wanting burst into tears. How can I believe him? You told me it was 1.5 billion, but he might lose everything tomorrow. If he owes money outside, who will cover it for him? Isn't it our Su family that will cover it for him? Xie Bingyan stared at Su Wanting angrily. Su Wanting felt suffocated and couldn't hold back any longer. She cried, "Mom, what did our Su family give him? Mom, you said you only gave him 500 yuan a month for living expenses. 500 yuan, not even enough to buy a pair of sneakers. In order to buy sneakers, Sumo had to work part-time for several days. He doesn't even have a decent pair of sneakers in our Su family. What did you give him? You still say that now." Xie Bingyan glared at Su Wanting when she heard this. "Wanting, did he give you some kind of magic potion to make you talk to me like this? If I don't do this, will he know that money is hard-earned?" Chapter 60. Su Mo is going to be adopted? I know money is hard to come by, but at the very least, you shouldn't be without even the most basic things. Su Wanting cried. "Boss, stop talking nonsense for him. I know what you want to say. Now, you are on his side, right?" Xie Bingyan was furious. Su Wanting stopped talking and sniffed. "Where is his bicycle? I'll go out and smash them all. I don't believe that he can get anything out of this after losing our Su family." Xie Bingyan was furious. Su Wanting wiped the tears from her face desperately and was no longer willing to say anything more to Xie Bingyan. Xie Bingyan has always been stubborn. Su Wanting thought she could tolerate her in the past, but she never expected her to be so unreasonable. Was this always the case when Su Mo was wronged in the Su family before? He never listened to explanations, was self-righteous, and wouldn't even file a complaint. If Su Mo had not been completely desperate, he probably would not have left the Su family. He left the Su family not because of them. Maybe they were partly responsible, but it was definitely because of Xie Bingyan. Su Wanting immediately understood it all. You can't smash Su Mo's bicycle. There are 500,000 or 600,000 of them out there. She spoke in a hoarse voice, her eyes blurred with tears. 500,000 or 600,000, so what? I can smash them if I want to. I don't believe he can come up with anything, Xie Bingyan said angrily, and then looked at Su Deming. Su Deming, call Xiao Li and tell him to take people outside and smash his bicycles for me. Su Deming frowned and said, Xie Bingyan, what are you crazy about? How can you smash 500,000 or 600,000 bicycles? Besides, the matter has not been clarified yet. Let's figure it out first. How else do we find out? Although I don't know how he did it, he is definitely defrauding investors' money, or it's a scam or a pyramid scheme. If I don't stop him now, it will sooner or later ruin the reputation of our Su family, Xie Bingyan said angrily. We have to make things clear before we can know whether it is true or not. You're making trouble without clarifying anything. How can you handle the matter well? Su Deming was dissatisfied. Okay. You yell at me too. Then let me see how you're going to make it clear. I tell you, Su Deming, you'd better handle this matter as soon as possible. If it affects the reputation of our Su family, I will hold you accountable. Xie Bingyan stared at Su Deming. Su Deming just felt a headache, ignored her, turned to Su Wanting and said, Wanting, you have to investigate Su Mo's entrepreneurship for me. In addition, I will also have someone investigate. If he is really involved in fraud and illegal operations, don't blame us for being rude. If Su Mo is not taught a lesson, he will cause a disaster sooner or later. When Su Wanting heard this, she immediately laughed miserably. Dad, you don't even blush when you say this. Even if you really keep him in our Su family, what can we do? Don't worry about it. This is a serious matter. I won't let go of any clues, Su Deming said coldly. Besides, he didn't even come to say hello when your mother was admitted to the IUC for emergency treatment. We don't expect him to do anything in the future. When Su Wanting heard this, she immediately knew that she shouldn't continue talking. At this moment, the door suddenly opened and a figure walked in. Who else could it be if not Su Shuai? She must have just been eavesdropping outside. Mom and Dad, Director Tang of our first affiliated hospital, has always wanted to adopt Su Mo. What? Su Deming and Xie Bingyan were stunned. She has talked to Su Mo many times, and Su Mo seems to agree. Su Deming and Xie Bingyan were stunned. Their expressions froze. The scorching hot air seemed to cool down in an instant, and the whole room fell into deathly silence in an instant. Dang Jingyi? Su Shuang looked at them and nodded. On the other hand, Su Mo followed investor Zhou Shiming to attend a meeting. There were quite a lot of people coming, most of them were entrepreneurs. Su Mo took the report and gave a presentation, which had a pretty good effect and caused some response. This speech was made in preparation for the company's future branding. Zhou Shiming invested 150 million yuan and hoped that this part of the shares would appreciate in value. On Su Mo's side, he naturally spared no effort to make clear what he wanted to say, establish his own values, and launch his own brand. There are already other people working on shared bikes, but Su Mo is the fastest for now, and he has already planned to go to Beijing. When the meeting was over, Su Mo returned to the company and was invited by the former director of the first affiliated hospital to have dinner at her home. This time, Tang Lei, Gu Huanxi, and the other two also came to eat together. This is the general situation of the Su family. I signed a severance agreement with them and gave them 300,000 yuan. I am also aware of the blood I shed, Su Mo said to Dean Tang Jingyi. The current situation is that in order to facilitate things in the future, I hope to move out of the Su family. I can move to the orphanage, but it's a little troublesome. I'm already 18 years old, and it's not particularly suitable to move to an orphanage. So I thought of you. Upon hearing this, Dean Tang Jingyi and Mr. Zhao fell silent for a moment, their faces looking serious. The Su family is not a small family with extremely rich wealth. Are you willing to give it up? Mr. Zhao looked at Su Mo with a complicated expression. I didn't take a penny from their family. Everything I owed them has been paid off. Part of the money I made from starting my business was from reselling seafood and fruits with Tang Lei and the other two, and part of it was from my investment. It has nothing to do with them. I hope to cut off all ties in the future. Su Mo said. Dean Tang Jingyi heard this and said, I remember that the CF family has a lot of connections in the capital. You will need to go to the capital next. Ms. Xie Bingyan is the daughter of the CF family. It doesn't matter how big of a relationship they are. I just hope to cut off ties with them completely. Of course, if Aunt Tang finds it troublesome, I'll just go find someone else. Moving back to the orphanage is not a bad idea, Su Mo said. Dean Tang laughed when she heard this. If you really want to do this, Aunt Tang will naturally not stop you. If they really don't care about you, it's better to break up completely. Thank you, Aunt Tang. I will consider dealing with this matter immediately, Su Mo said, knowing that the household registration issue could no longer be delayed. Since Su Deming and Xie Bingyan have returned, the sooner we deal with it, the better. Okay, in that case, let's eat first. After that, we'll talk later. I heard that you gained a lot from the meeting this time. I read the report, and your company's brand has been established, Mr. Zhao said with a smile. Su Mo said, this is just the beginning, Gu Huanxi said with a smile. So, what are you going to do next? Go to the capital and spread the business all over the city? Or spread it everywhere? Mr. Zhao was full of interest. We still need another round of financing, which will take about a month. I hope to raise more than 1 billion yuan this time. With this scale of funds, we can expand everywhere, said Su Mo. Can we raise more than 1 billion yuan? Mr. Zhao was surprised. Difficult. The time is short. If the time is longer, it will be easier. But even if we can't reach this scale, our development is very fast. At least now, it won't be a problem to cover the entire capital, Su Mo explained. Mr. Zhao smiled when he heard this and said, looking at your ambitious and high-spirited appearance, it really makes me miss you. If only I were as confident as you when I was young. Su Mo was happy. Mr. Zhao can now be full of energy and vigor. I'm old and don't have the energy. It's better to be young, Mr. Zhao said with a smile. Su Mo, Tang Lei, and others smiled but said nothing. Su Mo, after you've eaten, come out for a walk with me. Let's chat, Dean Tang said with a smile. Okay, I happen to have time today. Su Mo nodded. Okay. Eat more meat. You've been so busy that you don't have time to eat. You've become thinner due to hunger. Dean Tang looked distressed. On the other side, Xie Bingyan, Su Deming, and others packed up their things and left the first affiliated hospital. When they arrived outside the hospital and saw rows of yellow bicycles, their faces were serious. Xie Bingyan was really angry. I almost got angry out of shame just now. Especially when Su Shuang broke in just now, she was so annoyed that she kept shouting impossible several times. Su Shuang was so frightened that she dared not speak. Sitting in the car now, both of them had faces as dark as charcoal, and they said nothing. The air was almost cold to freezing point. For them, it is absolutely impossible for Su Mo to be adopted by someone else. This would be a slap in the face of their Su family. No matter how much I dislike this son, this kind of thing will never happen. Chapter 61, He Didn't Let Us Down. The car started slowly. Su Deming, Xie Bingyan, Su Wanting, and Su Shuang were in one car, and Su Juanja, Su Manny, and others were in another car. The atmosphere in the car was very stiff and cold, especially when seeing the rows of conspicuous yellow bicycles appearing on the street. The air seemed even colder. Su Shuang couldn't help but pull her clothes together to make herself warmer. No one, including her, expected things to develop to this extent. The eldest sister had been crying just now. Su Shuang is a doctor and is used to misery, separation of life and death, joys and sorrows. But she was caught off guard when this happened to her. We don't know the situation of Dean Tang Jingyi and Su Mo for the time being. Just the news is enough to make people feel at a loss. Not to mention that Su Deming and Xie Bingyan were unlikely to let Su Mo leave the Su family. She was unwilling to do so. No matter what, family is family. Blood is always thicker than water, no matter how close outsiders are. How can they compare to your own family? It's just a pity that she didn't understand this truth before. She thought it was fun and not abuse, and never considered Su Mo's situation in the Su family. During this period, the eldest sister has been very desperate and talked a lot about Su Mo. She had not been able to feel the torment her elder sister was enduring before, but now, she felt it a little bit. She should have been a little better, a little more like a sister, a little more able to use herself as a role model, but unfortunately, she didn't. She is even more cruel than the others. Uncle Zhao, please go around the nearby streets and come back, Su Deming suddenly said. Okay. The driver, Uncle Zhao, nodded, turned around, and started circling the area. There were quite a few people riding bicycles on the street, and some people were scanning codes not far away. It seemed very convenient and fast. There are also banners and billboards hanging on the trees, explaining what shared bicycles are and welcoming everyone to use them. Su Deming looked at it with a serious expression. As they were driving, suddenly, two figures in the distance came into view. Su Shuang and Su Deming took a look, and their faces froze. That's Su Mo and Dean Tang. It seemed that after dinner in the evening, the two came out for a walk and chat. Su Mo seemed to be introducing his bicycle to Dean Tang. Compared to more than a month ago, Su Mo has grown a lot taller and has become stronger and more energetic. He is no longer the frail-looking guy he used to be. As he was talking to Dean Tang, he seemed to be talking about something, then he started laughing and slightly raised a bicycle to show it to Dean Tang. As if seeing Su Mo, Uncle Zhao slowed down the car and drove slowly forward. Su Mo did not see them. He chatted with Dean Tang for a few words and then walked to the other side. Su Shuang looked at it and felt tears blurring her eyes. He should still be full of hope. Want to do my job as well as possible. These bicycles look very new and should have just been put there. After leaving home, he should have eaten well, slept well, and not had any problems. We haven't given him any money. So where did he get the money? Su Deming didn't let Uncle Zhao stop the car. He didn't want to have a conflict with Su Mo for the time being. He used to make money by reselling seafood and fruits. Su Wanting said. So, he had been planning to leave our Su family a long time ago. Su Deming turned around and glanced at Su Wanting. Su Wanting didn't know either and didn't say anything. We have raised him for 4 years. Doesn't he have any gratitude at all? Su Deming continued to look at Su Wanting. Su Wanting still didn't answer this question. She just felt sad in her heart. Seeing that she didn't say anything, Su Deming didn't want to continue asking and said to Uncle Zhao, Uncle Zhao, go back. Okay. Uncle Zhao responded and drove back faster. The atmosphere in the car became depressing again and fell into dead silence. Su Shuang and Su Wanting actually didn't want to say too much. They are not qualified to blame Su Deming and Xie Bingyan because they all know very well that they are the culprits. Su Wanting felt heartbroken when she thought that Su Mo might have asked her for help before. She hated herself for not noticing these things before. The group returned home quickly. Su Juanja and Su Manny were already waiting for them at home, but they were not fully recovered yet and still needed to rest. At this time, Xie Bingyan and Su Deming were not in the mood to eat. They asked Zhao Ma to prepare some simple food and went upstairs to rest, especially Xie Bingyan, who has not fully recovered yet. Su Shuang watched everyone leave, thought for a while, and walked towards Su Mo's room. She had not been to Su Mo's room yet and wanted to see what was going on inside the room. When she came here, opened the door, and looked inside, she was stunned. This room is remote and small and looks like a prison cell. It only has one small window. Apart from a small wardrobe, there is no room for anything else in the room. There were several photo frames in the drawer with some family photos in them. Su Mo did not take them away. Su Shuang picked them up and took a look. Suddenly, some cracks appeared on the family photo, and one of the people fell out. Su Shuang's face froze, and the portrait that fell down was Su Mo. At some point, Su Mo had dug out his own profile picture. Su Shuang hurriedly put down the photo frame and picked up a few others. She suddenly discovered that the other photo frames had also been dug out. In the photos with Su wanting, Su Shuehue, and her, Su Imo cut off his own head with a knife. Sparse shadow. While looking at these photos, Su Shuang felt unhappy, and suddenly she heard her elder sister's voice. Su Shuang turned around and saw Su wanting walking in. Sister, he has done nothing wrong to us. Su Shuang's eyes instantly turned red. I know. Su wanting almost cried. He once asked me for help and sent me many messages, but I ignored him. He has never done anything wrong to us since he entered our family. He has done so many things for me that I can't even count them all. Su Shuang was almost in tears. What's wrong with these photos? Su Wanting saw something unusual in one of the photos. Su Imo took himself out. He cut off his own head portrait. In fact, I know that his project has the potential to succeed. Jiang Pining has been talking about that project all the time. I almost watched him grow up step by step and watched him raise funds. Outsiders believe that he will succeed, but I am the only one who doesn't believe it. Su Shuang's tears cut through her pretty face. Su Wanting stopped talking and picked up the photos to take a look. Those photos were mostly family photos of them going out for fun. In every photo, Su Mo was smiling happily and brightly, but he cut off his own profile picture. It seemed that he was reluctant to take it down, so he put it back. It's just a pity that once it's cut, it's cut. He probably hesitated for a long time and made a lot of preparations, hoping to pray for a little response and a little comfort from the Su family, but no one responded to him. In the end, the cut family portrait could never be put back together. Let's see what our parents say, Su Wanting said. Su Shuang shook her head and sobbed. It's unlikely that my parents would let him leave the Su family. It's simply impossible. But just now my father and I saw Su Mo and Dean Tang taking a walk. Just now? On the street? Su Wanting and Xie Bingyan were sitting on the other side of the car window and did not see Su Shuang. Su Swing not that? Yay. But Dad didn't ask Uncle Zhao to stop the car. Dad didn't care about the family affairs before. He was just a hands-off boss. He didn't see Su Mo's situation in the Su family at all. Su Wanting didn't say anything when she heard it. Su Deming really doesn't care about family matters. He is very busy at work and rarely comes home. He is on business trips or in meetings most of the time and has no time to spare. Sometimes he is not seen for 10 days or half a month. Even when he returned home, he was mostly criticized and lectured. He didn't even know that she and Su Shuehue had graduated from college. He thought they were still in junior high school. He probably felt mostly distant from Su Mo and didn't have much intimacy with him at all. Su Wanting only feels sad now. Chapter 62. Planning the industry and starting investment. On the other side, Su Mo chatted with Dean Tang for a long time and explained the affairs of the Su family. After hearing this, Dean Tang had a very complicated expression. The Tang family and the Su family are not closely connected. The two families have their own relationships, and Dean Tang does not know that the Su family has an adopted son. Now that she had heard Su Mo's explanation, she was reluctant to express too many opinions. If you want to move your household registration out, that's fine. If necessary, I can even go to the Su family with Lao Zhao to discuss it. What you need is not a big deal. According to what you said, they should agree. Su Mo heard this and nodded. Since you've made a lot of money, when you go back, call a few more people to talk to them and try to drive as many cars back as possible, Tang Jingyi suggested. Although the Su family is not short of money or cars, in order to avoid being looked down upon by others, it would be a good idea to get some cars to show off. Su Mo immediately laughed. That's exactly what I meant. Of course, it's best not to make a fuss. If it can be resolved peacefully, then do it peacefully. You are a thoughtful and courageous child, and you should know how to handle this matter. If it is handled well, there will be no problem for you to move into our Tang family, Tang Jingyi said with a smile. Su Mo couldn't help but feel grateful when he heard it. However, now is not the time to go to the Su family. According to Dean Tang, Xie Bingyan and others have a viral cold. It will probably take 5 or 6 days for them to fully recover. Su Mo can go there after they recover. He no longer missed the Su family, and presumably, the Su family didn't miss him either, so moving the household registration shouldn't be a problem. As for using a few cars to decorate the storefront, we can try it, even if it's just to piss them off. Okay, since you understand, I won't say much. Lao Zhao and I are very optimistic about you guys. You kids are really outstanding. As long as you can stay stable, you have a bright future, Tang Jingyi said with a smile. In fact, apart from Su Mo, she also likes Gu Huanqi more. During this period, she has been whispering in Gu Huanqi's ear. wanting to adopt Gu Huanxi as her adopted daughter. I don't know if Gu Huanxi agrees or not. Su Mo didn't say much and followed her back. In the next 2 days, Su Mo was still very busy. There were many bicycles delivered and they needed to be placed separately. It seems that because Su Mo and Zhou Ximing attended a meeting, the concept of internet sharing economy has obviously attracted more attention, and several reports have been published in Shanghai City's Economic Times. As he started to have more money, Su Mo was not stingy and contacted the advertising departments of several large websites to continue advertising and promotion. Since Su Mo's main business is around Shanghai City, the advertisements are temporarily placed in Shanghai City. With large amounts of capital investment, the number of users also began to increase sharply. The company now has nearly 150,000 users. As the number of users increases, the company's next move can already begin. Users pay a lot of deposits, and we can't just leave them all in the bank. Our company is not just a bike-sharing company, but a new type of financial company. We need to understand this concept. Su Mo called Tang Lei and 3 others to a meeting to discuss the company's investment plan. The money we get needs to be invested to generate profits and interest. I have analyzed the industries that may benefit from current investments, and real estate is definitely a huge profit point. Considering that we don't have much funds now, I decided to take out 10 million and invest in a few shops. Buy the shop directly? Tang Lei was surprised. Great! Buy it directly. I plan to buy one for 5 million. I will buy 2 first. If we have enough funds later, we can buy land. Su Mo said, we may suffer from setbacks and competition in the future. We need to own our own real estate. Gu Huanxi couldn't help but laugh and said, Su Mo, we don't have enough money to expand the market in Beijing. Beijing needs at least 400,000 bicycles. I'm afraid we'll need 120 million just for investment. We can take our time in developing the market in Beijing. There is no rush. We can develop and invest at the same time. With Shanghai City as a foundation, Beijing will develop very quickly. I estimate that we still have about 3 months of bonus period, Su Mo said with a smile. I don't think it will take 3 months, maybe 2 months, Tang Lei said with a smile. Someone has already started the project. They will soon launch their own bicycles. Even so, we are still far ahead. We have 3 months, Su Mo said. With these 3 months of bonus period, it is enough for us to expand the market in Beijing and develop. Now, I need to remind you that the competition in the shared bicycle industry will be very fierce in the future. With our strength, it is almost impossible to dominate this industry. There are many practical problems in shared bicycles that cannot be solved. What we need to do is to make the most of these months of bonus period to grow and develop and earn our first pot of gold. My plan is that each of us should earn at least 500 million yuan. 500 million? Li Banzwang widened her beautiful eyes. Tang Lei and Gu Huanxi were speechless. Su Mo smiled and said, that's right, at least 500 million. This is our first pot of gold. When we make 500 million, we need to consider transformation. Next, I will tell you about the industries and sectors we need to invest in the future. While we still have a large deposit, we must use it to make as much profit as possible. Su Mo, you are so ambitious. 500 million. I can't even imagine it. Tang Lei said with a smile. Only if you are ambitious enough can you have enough to eat. We are ready to transform, Su Mo said with a smile. Seeing his confident look, Gu Huanxi couldn't help but nod. During this period of operation, they have great trust in Su Mo's judgment. If it were not for him, shared bicycles would not have developed so rapidly, and the shared internet economy would not have begun to rise. It seems that some people have started sharing electric vehicles, shared power banks, and shared children's toys and the like. This concept has gone viral on the internet. It was Su Mo who promoted this concept, which sparked countless discussions, and their bicycles have also brought convenience to countless people. Therefore, they had almost no doubts about the industry that Su Mo wanted to invest in. Su Mo was also very satisfied with their trust. He is very clear that shared bicycles are just the first step, and the subsequent investment will be the highlight. He now has a large deposit in his hand and has nowhere to spend it, so he needs to spend it. Considering that the Su family might crack down on his shared bike project in the future, Su Mo needs to make some hidden investments and plan his own industry. Have you seen the national policy? Urbanization will intensify in the future, and countless people will move into cities. House prices are rising steadily. Some people say it has reached the top, but I tell you, it is far from the top because more and more people will come to the city to buy houses. Real estate. We need to invest heavily. Real estate in Shanghai City, real estate in Beijing. As long as you buy it, you will make money. Don't be afraid of a fall in house prices due to an economic collapse. It's unlikely to happen in 5 years. We need to be the first to do this. Second, invest in liquor, especially Mutai. I predict that Mutai will usher in a golden period of development in the next few years. Now, Mutai has already shown a trend of financialization. We can make a small investment. Third, mobile application development and mobile games are on the rise. This year, web games have developed very quickly, causing many people to start investing in web games. However, web games are just the beginning. The next step is mobile games. I can predict that in the next 10 years, mobile games will usher in a golden period of development. Some game companies will develop very quickly and make hundreds of millions or even billions of dollars. We can make medium-sized investments. There are other things. I will analyze them for you slowly. In short, we need to invest part of the money first. Little Monster Company has accumulated enough money and can now make some investments in a big way without worrying about a break in the capital chain. Bicycles are just becoming popular now, so there won't be any problems in the short term. Adhering to the principle of not putting all eggs in one basket, Sumo's investments are spread out very widely. He circled 7 or 8 key projects, and he would get a share of each of them. Tang Lei and the other two naturally had no objection to his plan, so the investment was easily approved and implemented. Sumo even set up a small investment company called Finching, which specializes in managing investment funds. It seemed that Sumo's actions immediately attracted the attention of many people. In fact, during this period, many people are paying attention to the new financial model of sharing economy. I am very concerned about the way Monster Bike collects large deposits. What is a deposit? A deposit is an investment, an asset. A deposit of 100 or a few thousand yuan is nothing, and you can't spend it. But if it is hundreds of millions or even billions of yuan, it will create a tsunami-like wave. No investor can ignore the impact of such a huge amount of funds. Chapter 63. Did you cure his head? In the past few days, the number of bicycle users is still increasing, and we are not far from 200,000 users, which is just a matter of days. A large amount of deposit goes into Sumo's pocket every day. According to the current rate of increase, it is estimated that in 1 month, the number of users of Little Monster Bike will reach more than 400,000. This will cost Sumo a deposit of over 100 million. While housing prices are relatively low, I will first withdraw 10 million to purchase shops and make small investments with the rest to test the market's reaction. Naturally, Sumo's actions could not be hidden from the eyes of some people. In just a few days, a large number of discussions about new ways of playing the financial game of shared bicycles appeared on the internet. Little Monster Bike has taken the first step and started its financial layout. A new industry is emerging. Shared bicycles provide ultimate convenience. A new type of finance is born. The number of users of Little Monster Bikes has exploded. Some of the news was written by someone Sumo paid to write and is currently being used for publicity, but most of the news is analyzed by the media and some investors. Especially in some economic times, the discussion was extremely heated. A genius entrepreneur, the inspiration of a high school top student. Sumo, a top entrepreneur with a unique vision and a keen sense of smell. Shanghai City suddenly has a genius champion, Sumo. It should be because Sumo is relatively young, and with the blessing of being the top scholar, he quickly attracted the attention of many people. Especially the word genius. Many people also attribute it to Sumo. As more and more people saw these reports, the number of people using shared bicycles increased significantly. For 3 consecutive days, the number of new users increased by 20,000 every day. Sumo retained 1/3 of the funds in the company to prevent the capital chain from breaking, and all the rest of the funds were invested. There are short-term investments, long-term investments, some investments in real estate, and some plans to buy stocks. In addition, Sumo will naturally not miss the highlight Bitcoin. In fact, during this period, he continued to resell Bitcoin, which made Sumo's assets expand very quickly. In just a few months, Sumo has earned more than 50 million yuan from Bitcoin. It seems that because of his frequent Bitcoin transactions, he also attracted the attention of some people on Huobai.com. Sumo felt that Bitcoin was only temporary. After this year, he would probably need to trade slowly next year. In any case, Bitcoin is Sumo's biggest safety net now. With the existence of Bitcoin, Sumo does not have to worry about his capital chain breaking and bankruptcy. He can invest in other industries with confidence. The data is increasing so fast. I guess the news media is exploding. 20,000 users a day, 200,000 users, it will only take a few days. I estimate that we can reach 200,000 users before we report to school. Gu Huanqi looked at the data and was very happy. 200,000 is not our limit. I want more. Suemo said, if you want more, you need to invest in more bicycles. Now bicycles are not enough. Gu Huanqi said with a smile. Let's start opening up new markets. We have bicycles, Suemo said with a smile. Good. Investment and development are proceeding in parallel, at an accelerated pace, in full swing. As shared bicycles grew, Sumo's name also became well known and was widely reported. On this day, an invitation letter was sent to him from investor Zhou Shiming, inviting him to attend a conference of outstanding young entrepreneurs and give a speech on stage. I still remember that Suemo once secretly attended such a conference after school. At that time, a lot of people participated, and there were huge crowds. He heard that Su Wanting was going to a meeting, so he went to see her. He was very envious of her for being able to stand in that position and speak. He was also very proud of it. And now, the invitation is in his hands. Same meeting. On the other side, the Su family. After falling ill, everyone was not in a good condition. As the saying goes, illness comes like a mountain falling and goes like a thread being pulled out. For several days in a row, Xie Bingyan, Su Mani, and others felt listless and had no energy. They spent most of their time recuperating in bed. Su Deming recovered relatively quickly and was able to get out of bed and eat. Early this morning, he went downstairs to have breakfast. Su Shuang happened to be at home taking care of them. Su Deming has the habit of reading newspapers or watching the news while eating. Today, when he saw Zhao Ma bringing the food to him, he turned on the TV to watch the news. Suddenly, a figure appeared on the TV, causing his expression to freeze. Young entrepreneur Su Mo attended the Outstanding Young Entrepreneurs Representative Conference today and was awarded the title of Outstanding. He called for green sharing and low-carbon travel. It became popular in Shanghai City. Su Shuang had to go to work, so she came down early to have breakfast. After hearing these words, her body trembled. She stopped abruptly and stared at the TV screen. The Su family is rich, and the screen is very large, so you can see the contents clearly from a distance. This news report was specifically about Su Mo's shared bicycles, with rows of pictures and introductions, and even some interviews. An interview with Su Mo. Su Mo was wearing a suit, standing in front of the camera, holding some documents and talking. He looked calm and confident, not in a hurry. The black suit made him look very heroic. There are a few more words to describe him. Orphan, self-made, investor, initiator and creator of the internet sharing economy, advocate of emerging finance, outstanding young entrepreneur, Su Mo. Perhaps they have forgotten a word. That is top scholar. Our user base is growing very fast. In the past few days, 20,000 new users have joined us every day. We counted the riding time of each bicycle, and each bicycle was used for at least 1 hour a day. We have reduced urban carbon emissions, reduced environmental pollution, and reduced traffic congestion. What we want to do is to make it simple, free, fast, and convenient. Ride at any time, release at any time, and use it any time. We call on more people to join us. This was the first time Su Deming and Su Shuang saw Su Mo on TV. Looking back, Su Mo was always timid in the Su family. He had never worn a suit and could only wear a school uniform that was washed to a pale color. Su Shuang had never paid attention to these things before, until her eldest sister told her that Su Mo didn't even have a jersey in the Su family, and he even had to do a lot of part-time jobs to be able to buy a jersey or a pair of sneakers. I still remember one time, I went to the first affiliated hospital to see him. A female colleague in the first affiliated hospital lost her cell phone. He was said to have worked part-time for a long time before he saved enough money to buy the phone and return it to her. Later, the female colleague's cell phone was found and passed to Su Shuang, and is now still in Su Shuang's drawer. She never thought of apologizing. Su Shuang's eyes turned red. Su Deming didn't say anything, and neither did Su Shuang. Mother Zhao, who was serving them breakfast, glanced at the TV, was slightly surprised, and also watched it with great interest. Is that young Master Mo? Aunt Zhao had doubts in her mind. However, no one answered her question, and Su Deming's face was serious. Shuang, have you cured his head? Su Deming suddenly turned his head and looked at Su Shuang and asked. Su Shuang was surprised. Head? What head? A few months ago, His head was broken. Did you cure him? Su Deming asked, remembering this incident. When Su Shuang heard this, she wanted to cry immediately. The most important problem now is not the head, but palladium poisoning. My eldest sister has been investigating the palladium poisoning. However, Su Deming probably doesn't know that Su Mo had suffered from palladium poisoning, and Su Shuang doesn't want to tell him for the time being. Many people are suspects now. I didn't treat him. He didn't come to see me. He went to another hospital. He didn't show it to you? Didn't he always pester you before? Su Deming was surprised. What kind of old calendar is this? Suemo stopped chatting with her a long time ago. No, it should be said that she stopped chatting with Suemo a long time ago. Su Deming really didn't know what had happened over the years. Su Shuang only felt sad in her heart and held back her tears. He should be fine. He's just weak and had anemia before, but he looks much better now. That's good. Su Deming seemed slightly relieved and continued watching the news. There were many reports that some officials shook hands with these young entrepreneurs and presented them with badges. Among these officials, there was even a deputy mayor and president of the Chamber of Commerce. Chapter 64. Why are you hiding this from me? Su Deming has to go to work later. He has been absent from work for several days and needs to go back to deal with work. The same is true for Su Shuang. The two didn't say anything and continued watching TV, which was reporting on shared bikes. Dad, sistering, you guys got up so early? As she was watching, a voice came out. Su Shuang turned around and saw Su Juinja walking out rubbing his eyes, looking like he was not fully awake yet. Why don't you continue to sleep for a while? There's nothing to do. Su Deming said, I don't want to sleep anymore. I'm worried about Mom and want to go check on her. Su Juinja said, walking to the dining table. Sistering, give me one of these cakes. As he said that, he picked up a piece of bean paste cake from Su Shuang's plate and started eating. Su Shuang glanced at him, but didn't stop him and continued to stare at the TV. Sistering, why hasn't my eldest sister come down yet? Su Junja still remembered that Su Wanning was also at home. She went to bed very late last night and probably won't be able to get up this morning. Su Shuang said, Sister, you should take more care of your health. You have been taking care of us these days. Su Junja said with a worried look on his face. Su Shuang nodded. Seeing that she didn't say anything, Su Junja also sat down to eat breakfast with her. Aunt Zhao hurriedly brought him the breakfast he wanted. Su Junja picked up a bean paste pancake and handed it to Su Shuang. Sistering, I'll give it back to you. However, he didn't finish his words. Suddenly, he saw something. His face froze, and he also stared at the TV. I saw many images flashing on the TV, including a yellow bicycle, a meeting video, and the Monster Bike logo. Finally, several photos and interview videos of Su Mo appeared in succession. Su Deming and Su Shuang were staring at the TV with great interest, and Su Juinja's expression suddenly became stiff. Our philosophy is to promote resource sharing. This is a gift we give to the earth, and to let cycling change the city. It contains a lot of content, including some issues about users paying deposits and some new financial practices. Su Mo appeared on the camera again and talked freely. The entire living room fell into dead silence, and you could hear a pin drop. Su Deming didn't say anything, Su Shuang didn't say anything, and Su Juinja didn't say anything either. His breathing suddenly became much heavier, and a fierce haze appeared in his eyes. Juinja, you should learn from Su Mo in the future. He is doing well out there now. Su Deming suddenly spoke. Su Juinja was startled and said stiffly, Yes. But, Dad, is this Brother Mo? Yes. It's him. This rebellious son did a lot of things in Shanghai City while we were away. His project is called the Shared Bicycle Project, and it is very popular outside. I will check this project when I go to the company later, Su Deming said lightly. Su Juinja almost suffocated and said hurriedly, I know, but you should study hard for now. Compared to starting a business, studying is more important. Su Mo, this kid, should also study hard. Su Deming continued. Dad, sistering, I'm full. You guys eat first. Su Juinja couldn't sit still anymore, so he immediately stood up and walked towards his room. Su Deming and Su Shuang looked at him, frowned, but did not stop him. They have almost finished eating and need to go to work. Old 5, if you are free in the afternoon, go talk to Su Mo and ask him to go home. I have something I need to confirm with him. Before Su Deming left, he remembered something and asked Su Shuang. Su Shuang heard this and said, Dad, have you forgotten? Su Mo doesn't want to go home at all. Just go and talk to him. I have allowed him to come back. His project is not simple. If it is not handled properly, it may easily fail. We need to make sure of it first. Su Deming seemed to have regained his rationality. Allow. Su Shuang looked at Su Deming in disbelief. Su Deming said coldly, "Don't think that you have grown wings and want to fly solo outside. If you can't handle it well, it will implicate our Su family. Go ahead. Just say that I said these words to him." Having said that, Su Deming picked up his briefcase, turned around, and left. When Su Shuang saw him leave, she was suddenly at a loss. She never expected Su Deming to say such a thing. Could it be that he thought Su Imo left home just for the sake of nothing? The other side. Su Juinja didn't expect something like this to happen. He breathed rapidly, quickly returned to his room, turned on the computer to check it, and suddenly his eyes widened. He quickly browsed through the information, not missing a single one, wanting to figure out the current situation as quickly as possible. Last time, Suimo almost hit him with a knife at the back door of number 27 middle school. Since then, Su Juinja has become wary. Sumo's reaction was very unusual for him. But later on, he thought that he was just a number 1 scholar, and even if there was no number 1 scholar, he could not be replaced. Su Juinja is very clear about his advantages, which cannot be shaken by Su Imo. As long as he behaves docilely and obediently enough and pleases Xie Bingyan and Su Deming, he will have no problems at home. Although he was surprised that Su Imo suddenly left home, he was still very happy, especially after seeing Su Imo say those disgusting words and breaking up with Su Deming, Xie Bingyan, and others. He was overjoyed. The more this happens, the more sensible, filial, and outstanding he needs to appear. He needs to make a comparison between Su Deming and Xie Bingyan to prove that Su Imo is far inferior to him. However, just now, things turned his imagination upside down. He never expected that after only traveling for a few days and then having a cold for a few days, Su Imo actually appeared on TV. Su Deming and Su Shuang had already seen it, and they seemed to have known all this for a long time. This instantly made Su Juinja feel a strong sense of crisis. Green sharing? Shared bicycles? Internet sharing economy. Several terms popped up on the website, along with a photo of Su Imo carrying a bicycle. Su Juinja almost suffocated when he took a look. Damn it, how could something like this happen? When did it happen? That jerk. How could he? Su Juinja was unwilling to believe this. In his mind, Su Imo was almost no different from trash. He was timid at home and didn't even dare to say hello to strangers. He seemed very restrained and cowardly. How could he build such a big business all of a sudden? He was at home, and he clearly didn't have even a piece of clothing. Who paid him to cause so much trouble? Could it be the eldest sister? Su Juinja also knew that his eldest sister had been acting strangely recently. Her eyes were often red, which was not like her usual eldest sister. A few days ago, Su Juinja thought that this was because she was too busy at work and did not get enough rest. But now it seems that this is not the case. How many other people know about this? Do Su Shuehui and Su Manny know about it? Do Su Pundi and Su Yuechan know about it? Why did you hide it from me? Su Juinja has discovered that the Su family is hiding many things from him. For example, when discussing Su Mo's affairs, most of the time, Xie Bingyan, Su Wanting, and others were unwilling to discuss it in front of him. In the past, it seemed that he tried to avoid provoking him and deliberately avoided him. But now, Su Mo had built such a big company and actually kept it secret from him, which made Su Juinja feel seriously upset. These things should not be hidden from him. He has the right to know. Only when he knows can he make preparations. But now he seems to have missed it. You're holding a knife and trying to chop me. I can see that you know who your enemy is. Su Juinja stared at Sumo's photo with a hint of resentment in his eyes. But it's a pity that you can't change other people's perceptions. Not only me, but other people also think you're a waste. You are trash. Su Juinja was vicious in his heart. He immediately took out his cell phone and made a call. Hello, Uncle Zhang, how it's me? Chapter 65. Su Manny is just an idiot. The name is Su Mo. Yes. Help me find out where his money comes from. Don't move. Don't do anything to him for now. Got it? After hanging up the phone, Su Juinja felt serious. He has always felt that he is a member of the Su family and has always been proud of being a member of the Su family. Therefore, ever since Su Mo was taken back to the Su family 4 years ago, he was very afraid that Su Mo would take his place. Su Juinja was a smart man and knew very well where his advantages were. His advantages were being obedient, filial, sensible, and smart. As long as he can keep this up, his position in the Su family will be as solid as Mount Tai, and no one can take it away from him. Looking back on the past 4 years, Su Mo was like a clumsy street performer in the Su family, begging for love from his sisters and Xie Bingyin and Su Deming with disgusting gestures. Su Juinja wanted to laugh just watching him. Su Juinja knew very well what Su Mo wanted, so he would never allow him to get these things. Of course, the situation of the Su family is a bit complicated, and he still can't figure out the situation on Xie Bingyin's side. It seemed that Xie Bingyin hated her biological son much more than he had imagined, and Su Juinja had no idea why. He guessed that something might have happened to Xie Bingyin or Su Deming that made Xie Bingyin hate her biological son so much. But no matter what, Su Juinja would never allow others to take away his things. The third child, Su Mani, is just a fool and can be used a little. The fourth child, Su Pundi, is completely on my side. There is no problem at all. My eldest sister and my second sister, it's a little troublesome, but the problem is not big. My eldest sister, my second sister, and Su Mo all have very big problems that cannot be solved. As for the fifth one, Su Shuang, to be fair, Su Shuang did dislike Su Mo a little and didn't like him very much. But Su Juinja was also very clear that the fifth sister, Su Shuang, didn't particularly like him either. It is unlikely that the fifth sister, Su Shuang, will completely stand on his side. But there's no problem with losing the fifth child. The fifth child doesn't care much about things. As for the sixth child, she hasn't graduated yet and is still in a relationship. She can't interfere in family affairs. I am a member of the Su family, and I will always be a member of the Su family. No one can drive me away. Su Juinja made up his mind with a sinister heart and began to make plans based on his own advantages. After receiving the badge of Outstanding Young Entrepreneur, Su Mo started to walk back. The number of shared bicycle users has exceeded 200,000, and the rate of increase is still rapid. Su Mo is making additional investments. But when I get back to the company, I need to do something. He needs to move his household registration out first. Su Mo, Dr. Su wants to see you. While I was dealing with a problem, Li Banzwang suddenly came over and said, "What is she doing here again?" Su Mo frowned. "I don't know, but she said she really wants to meet you," Li Banzwang said. Su Mo turned his head and looked in the direction of the first affiliated hospital. He no longer had much good feelings towards the Su family. Even though they cried very sadly, Su Mo knew in his heart that those were all crocodile tears. The reason why Su Wanting and Su Shuehui did that for the past 4 years was definitely not just because they disliked his clumsy or dirty appearance. They actually had other reasons. It's just that Su Mo hasn't exposed their true identities for the time being. As for Xie Bingyin, Su Mo knew very well why she hated him. It was precisely because of this that he felt a chill in his heart. Before he understood the reason, Su Mo still felt that he had a chance to fight for it. But after he understood it, Su Mo realized how cold-blooded and cruel his biological mother was. This is exactly why Su Mo would never forgive her. But when it comes to the Su family, who does Su Mo still have a good impression of now? Then there is no doubt that it is only the fifth one, Su Shuang. The fifth sister, Su Shuang, just had a mean character. She simply didn't have any good feelings towards him, didn't want to compete with him for anything, and hadn't done much to disgust him. It's different for the others. It can be said that except for the father Su Deming and the fifth child Su Shuang, who are relatively simple, none of the others are good people. The third child, Su Mani, is a complete idiot. She is played around by others and has no brains. As for the fourth daughter, Su Pundi, you can tell from her name that she would not allow Su Mo to stay in the Su family, not to mention that she has very deep plans. As for the sixth girl, Su Yue-chan, Su Mo had less contact with her, but she was no pushover either. I don't know what Su Shuang came here for, but it just so happened that Su Mo had also planned to go back to the Su family to resolve the household registration issue. It would be better to let her come over. Su Mo turned around and instructed Li Banzwang. Li Banzwang was surprised. Su Mo, you want to see her? Since you are here, let's meet her. At least, she has treated you in Huanchi before, Su Mo said. Li Banzwang was silent for a moment and said, Su Mo, we don't want anything to happen to you. What could possibly happen to me? Don't worry, Su Mo said with a smile. Just let her in. It just so happens that I also plan to solve the last problem of the Su family. Seeing this, Li Banzwang could only nod helplessly and go to call Su Shuang in. Standing at the entrance of Mingding building, Su Shuang was still worried whether Su Mo would see her. Su Mo is completely different now. He has become more mature, more rational, and more decisive. He is no longer the Su-mo who used to chase after her. I still remember when I saw him in the orphanage. He was dirty and had a runny nose. I actually saw him before. Su Shuang looked at the signboard of Little Monster Bike and suddenly felt uncomfortable all over. Li Banzwang came over quickly and told her to come in. When Su Shuang heard this, she hurriedly followed Li Banzwang's footsteps. Dr. Su, we were all very grateful to you in the past. I, Huanqi, and Tang Lei all like you very much, Li Banzwang said. As for Su Mo, he is almost the same. That day, when Su Mo heard that you were his biological sister, he was so happy that he could hardly sleep. He woke up the four of us and told us several times. We in the orphanage have always been very grateful to you for your free clinics. Su Shuang thought of Li Banzwang, who had heart problems before and had a minor surgery, but recovered quickly. Hearing this, Su Shuang's face was difficult. No, nothing. We are grown up now. If Dr. Su is willing to do us the honor, Huanqi and I would like to treat Dr. Su to a meal to express our gratitude for his kindness in the past. But Su-mo, we don't know what happened to Su-mo, and we hope he will go too. Li Banzwang continued. He won't go. Definitely not. In the past, when she was at home, she often teamed up with Su Pundi to frame him. It is not the first or second time that people make sarcastic remarks and squeeze others out of their posts. It's just that she is often busy with surgeries and rarely has time to get involved in family matters. If she were at home, her performance would definitely not be much better than Su Manny's. Su Shuang stopped talking, hoping to explain the family affairs to Su Mo as soon as possible. Su Shuang had been to the office once before, and Li Banzwang pushed the door open and let her in. Su Mo was sitting inside, fiddling with a bicycle. Su Mo? Watching Su Mo fiddling with the dismantled bicycle, Su Shuang suddenly remembered that he had been poisoned by palladium, and that palladium was taken out from her laboratory. She felt a pang of pain in her heart. He was probably also wondering if she wanted to poison him. Su Mo, my elder sister said that you were poisoned before. Su Mo looked back at her, a trace of disgust on his face. Dr. Su, you have been practicing medicine for many years, but have you ever thought that palladium can kill people? It will make people suffer so much that they would rather die than live. Su Shuang covered her mouth hurriedly upon hearing this. I used to envy your job and thought you were an angel, Su Mo said with a sad smile. But unfortunately, you are not. Tell me, what do you want to see me for? Su Shuang's eyes were red. Dad hopes you can come home as soon as possible. Dad already knows about the company and project you are working on. He said that this project has very big problems. If it cannot be stabilized, it will easily explode. Su Deming? Is he free? Su Mo smiled when he heard it. Su Shuang heard the sarcasm in his tone, said nothing, and sniffed. Su Shuang, do you know what will happen if I go to the Su family now? Su Mo looked at her. Su Shuang was stunned. You should know, but you were in the same group with them. Do you remember the past? Su Shuang, it was about 2 years ago. I didn't take Xie Bingyin's bracelet. It was you and the fourth brother Su Pundi who took it away. To be precise, it was the fourth brother who took it away. You know it very well. Su Mo looked at her and smiled. But you were sitting there laughing while eating. You told Xie Bingyin that I took it. But I'm still thinking, you're Dr. Su. How could a gentle and kind doctor like an angel do such a thing? At that time, I thought it was my fault, and I must have let you down in some way. I'm sorry. Su Shuang burst into tears. Don't cry here. Su Mo stopped her and said with a smile, I'm just helping you recall. Don't confess in front of me. It's meaningless. In fact, until now, Banzwang and Huanqi still like you very much. After all, you have cured their illnesses, and they don't know your true face. You disguise yourself very well, using this white dress to pretend to be upright and kind. But in fact, you are cold-blooded than anyone else. Su Shuang didn't expect Su Mo to say this. Tears blurred her eyes. Su Mo, sistering, I didn't mean it before. What do you mean it wasn't intentional? You did it on purpose. Chapter 66, Xie Bingyin's heart is like a mirror. Su Mo smiled and said, You were laughing happily that day. Su Shuang didn't know what to say. She just felt sad in her heart. But don't think that Xie Bingyin doesn't know that you did it. In fact, Xie Bingyin's heart is like a mirror, and she knows you all very well. What? Mom knows what we did? Su Shuang was suddenly surprised. Su Mo looked at her and smiled. You don't think you can hide it from the world, do you? You don't think Xie Bingyin really doesn't know anything, do you? Su Shuang widened her eyes in disbelief. She could understand that Su Mo knew these things. After all, Su Mo was one of the participants. She could also understand that Su Pundi knew these things. After all, it was Su Pundi who took the things. But does Xie Bingyan know? If Xie Bingyan knew, why would she punish Su Mo? You go and talk to Su Deming. I will go to Su's house tomorrow afternoon. We do have something to talk about, Su Mo said lightly. No, Su Mo, Mom can't possibly know these things. Su Shuang looked at Su Mo hurriedly. Her heart beat faster, and she couldn't understand such a thing. Su Mo couldn't help but laugh. Why don't you go ask her if she knows? Su Shuang, in fact, we are all very smart, all smart people. You and Su Pundi's little tricks, can they be hidden from everyone's eyes? Don't talk about you, in fact. Su Juanja knows everything. How is this possible? Su Shuang couldn't believe it. Nothing is impossible, Su Mo said with a smile. Not wanting to say more? Go back. I won't see you off. Su Shuang wanted to continue asking, but Su Mo stopped her. Go away. Su Shuang had no choice but to leave Mingding building first. When she walked out, she saw the scorching sun outside. She appeared in the sunlight, but did not feel any warmth. Instead, she sensed a terrifying coldness coming from the bottom of her heart. She didn't know why Su Mo said that Xie Bingyan knew these things. If Xie Bingyan knew, it would definitely be a very terrible thing. You have to know that they have done a lot of things with Su Manny over the years. If you count them carefully, each and every one of them is very terrible. If Xie Bingyan knows all of them, then what does Su Mo mean to the Su family? She couldn't understand why Xie Bingyan did this. Su Shuang looked back at the Mingding building and suddenly felt that the sunlight was very dark, and some dirty things could not be exposed in the sunlight. The most terrifying thing is that she herself was once one of them. Su Mo stood in front of the window, looking into the distance. Behind him, Tang Lei knocked on the door and walked in. He also stood at the window and looked up into the distance. After a while, he smiled and said, "The liquor stock is rising, and we expect to earn 200,000 yuan today." Su Mo glanced at him and said with a smile, "We are just testing the waters and have not officially invested in stocks. You need to be cautious when playing with stocks. Do you want to take revenge on them?" Tang Lei looked into the distance. Su Mo was startled, then smiled and said, "Let's talk about it later. We are just starting out, and we lack some strength." Tang Lei stopped talking. "But give me a few cars tomorrow, preferably luxury cars, because we need to go to the Su family. Learn. See if we can solve the problem. If it's solved, we can go to school," Su Mo said with a relaxed look. "Let me get you a few people. Let's go together," Tang Lei said with a smile. "Okay," Su Mo nodded. "The company's affairs have come to an end, and I don't think I will be very busy in the future. Now I only have the Su family's affairs to deal with." Due to the shared bike incident, Su Mo does not want to have too much of a fight with the Su family for the time being. After all, the company needs some time to develop stably. He really didn't want the Su family to have a good life, but the prerequisite was that they had to protect themselves first. Only after they protected themselves could they do something. So when we go back tomorrow, we'll try to resolve it peacefully if possible. Su Mo hopes it can be resolved as soon as possible. All right, I asked you to investigate the matter about Davina's facial cleanser. Did you investigate it? What was the result? Upon hearing this, Tang Lei pulled out a test report and gave it to him. I had someone analyze and test it, and it does contain what you said. However, this report cannot be made public for the time being. Su Mo took it and took a look. Keep it for now. I will give you a list later. Please continue to do the test for other things for me. Tang Lei frowned. Su Mo, do you really want to do this? Really? Su Mo nodded. Take these things first, just in case. Maybe one day, we will need these things. All right. Davina is the brand of Su's cosmetics company. It is large in scale and has a wide layout. It is a company with a market value of 10 billion yuan, and its business is spread to more than a dozen countries abroad. Currently, Su Wanting is in charge of the specific business of Davina. Su Mo didn't tell Tang Lei what to do. He handed him a list and asked him to find someone to check it while he contacted the vehicle. Su Mo had already agreed to go home, so Su Shuang did not hesitate and immediately notified Su Deming. Su Deming nodded and said, "Okay, I'll go back tomorrow afternoon. Tell your eldest sister to go back as well." Good. Su Shuang immediately notified her eldest and second sisters. When the eldest sister heard this, she was immediately surprised. He agreed to go home? That's right. I just want to see Su Mo. And he agreed to go back. Su Shuang said, Dad notified you to go back as well? Dad said Sumo's project is more likely to fail. Okay. I'll go back. I'll go back tomorrow afternoon. Su Wanting sniffed. By the way, does Mom know? Mom. Su Shuang was stunned. I haven't notified her yet. I will notify her later. Then you notify her. No matter what, Suemo will go back tomorrow. So keep him here first. Su Wanting said. I understand. Su Shuang said. Then he called Su Shuehue. Su Shuehue was probably in class and was surprised when she received the call. Is he really willing to go home? Yes, he has agreed, Su Shuang said. Okay, Su Shuehue responded, seeming to cry. Su Shuang didn't say much, hung up the phone, and planned to go home to inform Xie Bingyan. I don't know what Xie Bingyan's attitude is. I need to ask first. In fact, if you think about it carefully, Xie Bingyan's attitude towards Su Mo is indeed very strange. It seems that she didn't like Su Mo from the beginning. Logically speaking, Su Mo has been wandering outside for 14 years, and he has spent all of these 14 years in an orphanage. Faced with this situation, normal parents should give more care to their own son. It is understandable that Su Shuang favors Su Juanja. She and Su Mani and others also like Su Juanja. Su Juanja is more obedient and well-behaved. However, this should not be at the expense of her own son. Su Mo said that her mind was as clear as a mirror, and she seemed to know everything. If that was really the case, it would be too scary. What exactly does Xie Bingyan plan to do? Chapter 67, We Are All Family. Su Shuang was a little confused. But even so, she felt that it was impossible for Xie Bingyan to poison her. After all, even a tiger would not eat its own cubs. No matter what, Xie Bingyan would not do that. Since she still had to go to work, Su Shuang didn't bother to think about it anymore. She went back to work first and would go home in the afternoon. When she returned to the Su family villa, she saw that Su Mani and Su Pundi were already drinking tea and playing dogfighting in the living room. Su Juanja doesn't seem to be at home. He probably went out to play with his friends. Su Juanja has a lot of friends. Su Shuang took out a bottle of milk from the refrigerator and took a sip, then saw Xie Bingyan coming down from the second floor. My eldest sister and second sister haven't come back yet. They will probably be a little late. Seeing Xie Bingyan coming down, Su Shuang thought about it and decided to talk to them. Anyway, saying one is saying it, saying three is saying it, so just say them together. Old 5, make me a cup of fruit tea. Xie Bingyan sat on the sofa and ordered Su Shuang. She looked a little listless and low in spirits, and probably wasn't fully recovered yet. Okay, Su Shuang made her a cup. Old 5, I want a cup too. I want one too. Su Mani and Su Pundi also shouted hurriedly. Su Shuang was speechless and could only make a large pot of tea and pour a cup of fruit tea for each of them. Xie Bingyan picked it up and took a sip comfortably, then lay down on the sofa with a comfortable expression and seemed to look much better. Seeing that they had all finished drinking, Su Shuang thought for a moment and then said, Mom, Su Mo said he would be back tomorrow afternoon. Brush. After these words were spoken, Xie Bingyan's face froze. Oh, he is willing to come back? Su Mani spoke immediately. Su Pundi also laughed. Su Mo is back? Such a big deal? He must be back because he can't make it out there anymore. He's a rare guest. Su Shuang felt a little uncomfortable when she heard these words. Third sister, fourth sister, Su Mo is different now. What's the difference? Don't think it's great to be the top scorer. Nowadays, there are a lot of top scorers. Without our Su family, he is nothing. Su Mani laughed disdainfully. I thought he would never come back. Now he comes back in such disgrace. It's so funny. There was a hint of sarcasm in Su Pundi's eyes. If it were in the past, Su Shuang might not find these words offensive, and she was almost the same before, but now, she suddenly realized how unpleasant and terrifying these words were. Thinking back, I had mostly spoken to Su Mo like this before. Even the last time I met Su Mo near the first affiliated hospital, I was always sarcastic. Su Mo is really different now. He is different from before. Eldest sister and second sister have both gone to see him. Su Shuang said hurriedly. Isn't it just that he passed the imperial examination and became the top scholar? Can he really go to heaven? I said that he would have to return to our Su family sooner or later. Su Mani laughed and said, he misses our Su family's things so much. How could he be willing to leave? Su Pundi smiled and said, Old 5, he asked you to tell him to come back, right? Su Shuang hurriedly shook her head. You don't understand. I'll explain it to you later. Mom! She turned and looked at Xie Bingyan. Xie Bingyan looked indifferent and immediately said coldly, "It's better to come back. I want to see if he dares to do this again next time." Su Shuang hurriedly said, "Mom, this time when Suemo comes home, my elder sister and I hope that Suemo can stay at home. Besides, Dad also said this morning that he wants Suemo to come back. Suemo is very different now. He is really different. I know he is different. So what?" Xie Bingyan looked at her coldly. Su Shuang was choked and looked at Xie Bingyan, suddenly not knowing what to say. "His company is either a scam or a pyramid scheme. I've asked your father to take a look. If there are any problems, we will report it to the Public Security Bureau," Xie Bingyan said. Su Shuang's eyes turned red when she heard this. This dad is already investigating. However, Su Mo shook hands with the deputy mayor yesterday and was awarded the title of Outstanding Young Entrepreneur. "What?" Xie Bingyan stared at Su Shuang. Su Shuang nodded. He was invited to attend an entrepreneur meeting and then was awarded the title by a deputy mayor. Many investors and entrepreneurs attended that meeting. Xie Bingyan was obviously stunned and didn't say anything. What title of Outstanding Young Entrepreneur? Isn't that eldest sisters? Su Mani and Su Pandiai didn't understand all this and looked surprised. Su Shuang looked at them and said, "You don't know? You are all sick and traveling." In the past few months, Su Mo has done a lot of things. He opened a company which has become popular in Shanghai City and even in most of China. Some people call him a genius entrepreneur. Wow! When these words were spoken, Su Mani and Su Pundi were surprised. Genius entrepreneur? Su Mo? Old five, are you stupid? Is your brain broken? What nonsense are you talking about? I told you that you don't know. You'll know if you check it on your phone. Su Shuang turned on her phone, checked the news, and handed it to them. It's all about Su Mo's reports, a lot of them. This is what Su Mo has done in the past few months. The impact is huge. Su Mani and Su Pandiai took it and took a look. Shared bikes. Not bad. Su Shuang nodded. Su Mani and Su Pundi hurriedly read it carefully and opened their mouths in disbelief. How is this possible? Su Mo? How is that possible? Su Shuang ignored them and turned to Xie Bingyan and said, "Mom, Sumo's project doesn't seem to have any major problems. Although it's easy to go bankrupt, many investors are very optimistic about it. We really shouldn't let Su Mo live outside." Xie Bingyan's face turned pale and she said coldly, "He wanted to come back and live here. I didn't stop him. He ran out on his own." Su Shuang thought to herself, if it weren't for you, he probably wouldn't have run away. But she didn't dare to say it, so she could only say, "My eldest sister and second sister will be back later, and they both want to meet Su Mo. We don't want him to leave the Su family with resentment and make a living on his own. He should get help from the family." Xie Bingyan glanced at her and said coldly, "If he is obedient enough, can change those messy little bad habits, and cut off ties with those messy people outside, I will naturally be happy for him to go home. But if not, then there is nothing to say. I will never let him use a single cent of my Su family." "Mom, how can you say that? Isn't Su Mo part of the family? Isn't it for his own good that I am doing this? He has so many problems. If he continues like this, how can he enter the upper class? Our Su family is not an ordinary family. We are an upper-class family. We should abide by the rules and know etiquette," Xie Bingyan said coldly. Then he looked at Su Shuang again. "Old five, don't speak for him. I know what to do. I want to see if he has learned well this time when he returns home." When Su Shuang heard this, she felt extremely chilled. She didn't want to say any more and turned back to her room. In the living room, Su Mani and Su Pundi looked at the messages on their phones with surprise. They didn't seem to expect that Su Mo could accomplish so many things in just a few months. The two of them flipped through several news reports and searched several times. The more they read, the more shocked and astonished they became. Time passed quickly, and soon it was evening. Su Wanting and Su Shuehui went home and told the story again. Su Mani and Su Pundi were even more surprised when they heard this. However, after dinner, Su Shuang went to talk to Su Wanting and Su Shuehui. Mom's attitude remains the same. She doesn't want to give in, and I don't know why. We are all family. Why are there still things we can't get over? Su Shuang sniffed, looking aggrieved. Su Wanting said, "I guessed it. Mom has always been like this. But I hope Su Mo can move back tomorrow." "Sister, do you think it's possible?" Su Shuang looked at her. Su Wanting did not answer this question, and a hint of frustration appeared in her expression. Until now, Su Mo was unwilling to see her. "I wonder what he's coming back for?" He definitely isn't coming back to negotiate peace. Sumo's recent changes are really huge. So huge that I can't believe it, Su Shuang said with red eyes. He knows someone wants to kill him, so naturally he doesn't want to come back. Su Shuehui said softly. Who is it? Who is it? Su Shuang looked at her immediately. Wait, Su Shuehui said. Su Shuang was immediately choked again. Let's wait and see tomorrow. Dad will be back too. I hope he can stop him from leaving. Su Wanting said. Su Shuang didn't know what to say. Suddenly, a trace of despair arose in her heart. She didn't know how to deal with the situation. Chapter 68 Raised means adopted. Time passed quietly, and in the blink of an eye, a whole night was over. Su Deming came home very late last night. It seemed that he had gone out for a social event and drank some wine. He fell asleep as soon as he came back. Since Su Mo was coming back, Su Shuang, Su Wanting, and others did not go to work and took leave. They hoped to have a good chat with Su Mo. However, the reactions of Xie Bingyan, Su Mani, and others were still a little cold, and Su Shuang couldn't care less about that now. She told Uncle Zhao to open the door for Su Mo immediately if he came back. Uncle Zhao agreed. On the other side, Su Mo prepared some good things. First, he found 2 lawyers to go with him. Originally, there was no need to hire a lawyer as there was nothing to discuss. Su Mo only wanted to move his household registration. But after thinking about it carefully, he did not want to have a conflict with the Su family for the time being. So it would be better to ask 2 lawyers to go with him. Su Mo has shown the severance agreement to 2 lawyers. Although this severance agreement has no legal basis, it can still be implemented as long as both parties agree. The purpose of Su Mo's return this time is to make things real. In addition, Tang Lei called 6 strong men, all of whom were wearing suits and sunglasses, and went back with Su Mo. Tang Lei did this to build up momentum and also to let the Su family take a good look. Even though it might not have much effect, Su Mo still asked them to follow. After all, there's nothing wrong with that, right? Whether you are being arrogant or showing off your power. Only by showing off your strength can you gain bargaining chips. Third, Su Mo hired 6 luxury cars, all of which were Rolls-Royces and black Bentleys, and they would drive towards the Su family in a mighty manner. That's right. Su Mo just wanted to discuss them. Regardless of whether the deal can be concluded this time, face cannot be lost. Finally, it was Su Mo, Tang Lei, Gu Huanxi, and others' turn. They all changed into suits and ties, wore sunglasses, polished their shoes to a shine, and combed their hair smoothly. It was like they were in the Matrix, and they want to talk like this. He believed that if he did this, the effect would be better. It's a pity that the company still needs some time to develop stably. Otherwise, I would just confront them directly. Su Mo stood in front of the company window, looking at the luxury cars below, and said with satisfaction in his heart. He knew very well that if he could expose their true colors, it would be a very good show. It was a pity that he had not had enough time to develop and had not yet fully grown up. Now Su Mo's main focus is on preserving his career. He doesn't want any major fluctuations or accidents to occur at this critical juncture. We can put Su Juanja aside for now. This adopted son is probably looking for someone or a way out, so there's no need to rush to deal with him. If we do deal with him, we must make Xie Bingyan feel the pain. Su Mani and Su Pundi. One is an idiot and the other is a psychopath. There is no need for this for now. Since they are idiots, let them continue to be stupid. Only you, Su Wanting. Su Mo glanced in the direction of Davina Company and said, maybe we should have a good chat. As he was speaking, there was a knock on the office door. Su Mo, it's time to go out. Tang Lei shouted outside. Okay. Su Mo didn't hesitate, picked up his suit jacket, and walked downstairs. Mr. Su. Mr. Su. When he walked down, there were already a bunch of people waiting for him at the door. Some were from the company, some were people hired by Tang Lei, and there were also lawyers, Gu Huanxi and others. Let's go. Let's go together, Su Mo said. Walk. Tang Lei waved his hand, and everyone got on the car. Su Mo, Tang Lei, and Gu Huanxi drove a Rolls-Royce, and the others drove a Bentley. The huge convoy set off from Mingding Building and headed towards the Su family villa. Su Mo even had someone buy firecrackers so that when they reached an open road, they could set them off while walking across the road. When we arrive at Su's door, we will put a few big strings of firecrackers to liven up the atmosphere. No matter what, today is a good day, and we should celebrate it well. The Su family villa is not very far away, and the journey takes about an hour. Su Mo quickly drove the car to the villa area. When they arrived here, Su Mo asked people to start setting off firecrackers. When the car arrived in front of the Su family's gate, Suemo asked Tang Lei to get out of the car, put the firecrackers on the ground, and lit 3 large strings at the same time. The Su family has a doorman and a security guard. The doorman's surname is Chun, and he is in charge of guarding the door and security. There is also a supervisor named Uncle Zhao. When they saw this scene, they were surprised and stunned. Su Shuang, Su Wanting, and others were waiting in the living room. They were drinking tea and chatting when they suddenly heard a burst of firecrackers outside the door. Everyone was surprised and ran out to take a look. However, the Su family's door was seen slowly opening, and a shiny black luxury Rolls-Royce drove in, followed by a motorcade. They were immediately stunned. 5 black Bentleys in a row. They lined up and stopped at the gate. After a few swipes, people in the black Bentley got out quickly, all dressed in suits and ties. The black Rolls-Royce slowly drove to the front of the Su family villa and stopped. Before the door was opened, the man in a suit in the Bentley ran over and opened the door for the Rolls-Royce. Su Wanting, Su Shuang, and others didn't understand what was going on and stared with their eyes wide open. However, after the car door opened, a foot stretched out first, followed by the upper body, and a young man with shiny hair, wearing sunglasses and a suit and tie came out. He seemed to be full of heroic spirit, noble, elegant, restrained, yet a little wild, and he was smoking a cigar in his hand. There was a sudden dead silence all around. You could hear a pin drop. It was completely silent. The door on the other side of the Rolls-Royce opened, and 2 girls and another young man in a suit got out and soon came to Suemo. Suemo glanced at the Su family villa with his eyes slanted, as if he was looking at the sky, with a look of looking down on the sky. Finally, his gaze fell on them, and he shook the cigar in his hand. The girl next to him hurriedly took out a box and handed it to him. Suemo put the cigar on the box, put it out, and exhaled a puff of smoke from his mouth. Pa pa pa. The sound of firecrackers suddenly rang out again, quite loudly. Master Mo? A cry of surprise came from the side. Who else could it be but the nanny Zhaoma? There was astonishment in her eyes. Suemo pulled up his sunglasses slightly. Long time no see. Aunt Zhao, are you okay? Okay. Master Mo, you're finally back. Aunt Zhao was excited. Suemo smiled at her and walked into the Su family villa. Suemo, you're finally back. Su Wanting shouted hurriedly, with surprise in her eyes. Suemo glanced at her. Why? Unhappy. Happy. Of course I'm happy. Su Wanting spoke quickly. I can see that you don't look very happy. Suemo said with a smile, but didn't say much and continued to walk inside. Suemo, why did you call so many people over? What are these people here for? Su Shuang asked, a little worried. Suemo turned around and smiled. Do you really want to know? Of course. Su Shuang nodded quickly. You don't want to know, Suemo said with a smile. Su Shuang's face froze. Suemo, I'm sorry. Su Shuehue's eyes turned red. Suemo gave her a mischievous look and said, Su Shuehue, I can afford a portion now. Su Shuehue's face changed. But you still make me feel sick as always. Suemo suddenly mocked rudely, but soon laughed and said, It's nothing. I'm used to your filthiness. Brother Suemo, you're back? At this time, another voice came out. Who else could it be but Su Juinja? He is at home too. However, as soon as he finished speaking, Suemo slapped him hard. Bang! The slap was so fast and hard that it almost knocked Su Juinja to the ground. In fact, Suemo had seen him as soon as he entered the room, so he was naturally rude and hit him hard. Su Juinja was stunned for a moment and didn't even react. Then Suemo kicked him again. You didn't die of illness, Suemo said with a smile. Suemo, why are you hitting people? Supundi shouted, getting furious and wanting to rush over. The others were also surprised and rushed over to stop him. Suemo took a step back, spread his hands, and smiled. Supundi, don't blame me. Who told him to show his face to me? I can't help but slap this adopted son. I told you a long time ago that fake ones are fake and adopted ones are adopted, but you just don't believe it. Chapter 69, Change Your Household Registration? When Su Juinja heard this, the word adopted son seemed to hurt him, and he became furious. But soon, he saw that there were many people around, and his anger disappeared. He quickly covered his face with his hands, looking aggrieved. Su Juinja's face turned pale, and he was furious. But in order not to reveal his emotions, he covered his face with his hands, pretending to be wronged, and said, Brother Suemo, what are you talking about? I really don't understand. Suemo smiled, his eyes full of sarcasm. Of course you understand. You always understand. But it doesn't matter, we can play slowly. After all, adopted children are not as good as biological ones, right? Soo Juinja felt a chill in his heart, and the repressed resentment almost overflowed, but he did not dare to refute. Soo Mo was now obviously fearless, and even his parents might not be able to suppress him. Even if he was beaten, Soo Mo would not be sent to prison for beating him. After all, a biological son is always a biological son. Soo Mo, you are becoming more and more lawless. Suddenly, a sharp shout broke the deadlock. Xie Bingyan rushed down from upstairs angrily. Soo Mo sneered, glanced at Soo Juinja, and said mockingly, "Look, your savior is here. Why don't you go hug his thigh and cry to him?" Soo Juinja gnashed his teeth but still pretended to be pitiful and ran towards Xie Bingyan. "Mom, don't blame Brother Soo Mo. It's all my fault." Xie Bingyan looked at his red and swollen face, feeling extremely distressed. She stared at Soo Mo angrily. "You rebellious son, you actually dared to hit your brother, and you dared to return to the Soo family." Soo Mo shrugged, looking nonchalant. "I have something to discuss." "What else do you want to talk about? You have no respect for your relatives, and you still have the nerve to come back." Xie Bingyan's anger did not diminish at all. Soo Mo said calmly, "Xie Bingyan, stop yelling like that. Are you worried about your adopted baby son? Then just hug him and cry. How dare you call me by my name?" Xie Bingyan was furious and rushed forward to attack. At this moment, Soo Wanting interrupted hurriedly. "Mom, calm down. Wait for Dad to come down before talking." She quickly asked Su Shuang to call her father down. Xie Bingyan still refused to give up. This rebellious son must be taught a lesson today. She turned around to find a ruler. Soo Mo was not moved at all, and there was still mockery in his eyes. After a while, Su Deming walked down slowly, his face gloomy. He glanced at Soo Mo and said coldly, "Let's talk about it after we finish talking. Don't rush into it." Xie Bingyan was very angry at Su Deming's words and glared at him. "Are you on his side too?" "Be quiet." Su Deming said no more, walked straight to Soo Mo, and said in a deep voice, "Tell me, what do you want to talk about when you come back?" "Household registration," Soo Mo said calmly. "What?" Su Deming frowned and looked displeased. "I want to move my household registration." Soo Mo took the documents from the lawyer and said with a cold smile, "From today on, I will completely sever my relationship with the Su family." This sentence instantly made the whole room fall into silence. Su Deming and Xie Bingyan were stunned, and even Su Wanting opened her mouth wide, unable to believe what she heard. "Change your household registration?" Su Deming stood up in shock and asked angrily, "Are you crazy?" Su Mo's expression was grim. "I'm not crazy. I just don't want to have anything to do with you anymore. The previous letter of severance was just a piece of paper. Now, I want it to have legal effect." He held up the document with a firm look in his eyes. "Do you really want to sever ties with the Su family completely?" Su Wanting's voice trembled, and her eyes were slightly red. Soo Mo nodded, his tone calm. "I don't need this family. I've seen it clearly a long time ago. I want to go my own way, and the Su family has nothing to do with me anymore." The room was dead silent. Su Deming's face became uglier and uglier, while Xie Bingyan was already too angry to speak. Soo Mo sneered, picked up the pen, and signed his name on the document without hesitation. Chapter 70. Unless I die, it's absolutely impossible